It is 6 o'clock here in the region. Is this the fuzzy mic? Do I sound fuzzy or do I sound okay?
You sound fine.
Okay. Well, you tell us. But it is 6 o'clock here in the region. Chuck Pullen here with you on a Memorial Day, May the 25th. Hope you are enjoying your weekend. I was already told several times, don't say Happy Memorial Day. So I don't know if we just say Memorial Day to you, wishing you a good Memorial Day. Obviously, a lot of people that have families, that have relatives that lost their lives serving this country. This is a special day for them. I know a lot of people go out to cemeteries, stuff like that, American flags on graves and clean up graves and do stuff like that. So if you're one of those people, love to hear from you. If you're participating in any Memorial Day events, if there's anything going on later today, if you're on your way to something, love to hear from you as well. 219-845-1100. Tell us about how you observe Memorial Day. We are here. Bob did not make it in today. He went to his first Indy 500, and as he learned the hard way, sometimes leaving the track is just as hard as getting there. So late last night, he was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to make it back. But maybe at some point we'll get him to check in. We actually have our old friend Rob Kendall checking in. It's his day off. I said, Rob, you got the day off. Why don't you call in and get us caught up on what's happening in Indianapolis? There's all, you think things are crazy here. There's just as much going on down there. We just don't spend enough time talking about it. But in the meantime, let's take a look at traffic and weather. In traffic, there is no traffic. Weather, is there any weather?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 55 degrees with highs of 84 and lows of 57. It's going to be mostly sunny and warmer, and then later tonight should be partly cloudy. Tomorrow on Tuesday, we'll be having highs of 86 and lows of 63. It should be very warm with periods of clouds and sunshine. Then Wednesday, we'll be having highs of 83 and lows of 57. It should be cloudy and very warm.
So I should warn you guys ahead of time when that came in under protest issue. I thought it was a day off. I said, well, no, we generally, this is how I got my start, was filling in for Jim on holidays. And she said, that's fine. I want to be paid double and I'm going to do half the work. So I thought when I asked her to do weather, she's going to say no. She also said she will be hanging up on people at random today. So, be on your best behavior because she's got an itchy trigger finger. She's just going to hang up on you and call you dumb. But, so we're going to keep it loose today. I know you're like, well, you always keep it loose. We're going to keep it extra loose today. There's obviously a lot going on, news-wise. We've got a lot to go over for the next couple of hours, but obviously, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you've got going this weekend. If there's anything that you want to talk about, there's like a free-for-all random Monday, because it's just us. If you're one of those people that still wakes up, I'm one of those guys, like, I don't care what day it is. Like, you get old enough, you just wake up at 4 a.m. regardless. So if you're one of those people that are waking up and like, I don't know what to do the next couple hours, it's my day off, just hang out, listen, call in 219-845-1100. Let us know what's going on. Did you watch the race yesterday? Obviously, it's Indiana. Everybody's watching the race. I heard it was quite a great race. I'm like, you know what? I just condensed it. I watched like the recap. So I saw Felix Rosenqvist wins the 500, the closest finish in history, 0.02 seconds, which is always exciting to see. So if anybody's coming back from that, like I said, Bob was down there making his first trip. So either you'll hear from him today or Friday or at some point telling us about his first experience down at the 500. I saw traffic was especially, it seems like traffic's getting worse down there. So I don't know why that is or what's going on with that. Same idea. I've never been. So if you're one of those people that's a regular on your way back this morning or anything like that, love to hear from you about that. Obviously, the big news here in the region that's now, I just see we're making national news once again here in the region. 45-year-old Earl Mayo, the police chief of New Chicago, was charged yesterday. He was arrested last week. Probable cause affidavit after allegedly selling evidence to a pawn shop, allegedly taking weapons and selling them to a pawn shop. Ongoing investigation for the last, sounds like over 2 years now to get to the bottom of this. He was, his home was raided, and the probable cause, they talk about steroids and things like that. So a lot to go over with that. Obviously, it gets a little more complicated because he is the son of the current Democratic nominee for sheriff, Jerry Williams, who put out a statement over the weekend as well. So we'll get into all that, but we want to hear from you. But yeah, so we'll get into all that. Like I said, Rob Kendall calling in at 8 o'clock. So we'll do a little half hour with Rob about Indianapolis news. We'll talk about all the cast of characters down there, the latest in the Secretary of State scandal with Diego. If you're not following that, it's pretty interesting. But we'll get into all that later in the show. But in the meantime, we're taking your phone calls, whatever you guys want to chat about for the next couple hours. We're just here hanging out. So you said we got a call. Let's take it. So good morning, caller. You were on the air.
Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, MX.
Well, I was right again.
Yeah?
This is where age comes in and experience.
Right.
On the Tom Dapperton show, I told everybody I don't know enough about Jerry Williams to support him.
Okay.
And now I know enough. And let's go into two parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Son or stepson, it doesn't matter. They say son or stepson.
Right.
But let's go back to what I do know. This is going to make it real. Hold on.
Go ahead. Just get it all out. Get it all out. It's fine. You're not on the radio right now.
Hold on. Let me have a drink of coffee.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can have.
Now you have some. I'll have some coffee with you. Go ahead.
Okay. Now.
That's some good radio.
At the mill, in the Boilermakers, you have people that come through the ranks.
Okay.
Okay. And you have people that work really, really hard that come through the ranks that want to be promoted. And then when an outsider comes in, like Jerry Williams, it doesn't work well.
Okay.
And now with this little episode, it's not going to work good at all. So what happened to us, we got bosses from the ironworkers, outside ironworkers, and the outside Boilermakers to be our bosses. And it didn't work out good because the people that should have got promoted didn't get promoted. Let's go back to this son, stepson. If you don't know what your son or stepson is doing, then how are you going to police what's going on in Lake County, Indiana?
Okay. Can I step back for a second? So I want to put this out just so people know. So there was a statement released by Major Jerry Williams on Saturday. He says, "My wife and I, our family, are deeply concerned over recent information regarding our son, Earl Mayo. We raised all of our children with love, guidance, and strong foundation of values. We've always held our children to higher standards as we have ourselves." So this becomes, as I like to say, this becomes the question, though. I mean, his son is a grown adult. Do I, my son is days away from turning 18. Do I, at what point, obviously you can say, well, he wasn't raised right or whatever, but at some point I can't take responsibility for the actions of my adult son, just like most other people can't. So, it's sort of a leap there to go and say, well, this falls back on, Jerry Williams because of a mistake his son allegedly has made.
This went on for 2 years.
Right. So we know
this is not just a regular son, Chuck. Okay. This is not just a regular son. This is a son of a candidate,
right,
that's running for Lake County Sheriff, who's supposed to watch us all. You understand what I'm saying? This is not just a regular son like you just told me.
I understand that, but that is the question,
and it's
though.
been going on for
This has been going on for a
It's
couple
been going
years.
on for
so
2 years.
Yeah, so the investigation started April 29th of 2025 when a weapon was sold to Megapawn. And so the allegation is essentially that this weapon was taken out of evidence and sold. Again, not the brightest of crimes. It's something, you know, all weapons have serial numbers, wasn't the brightest of ideas. But then obviously his home was raided. There's allegations I believe it was his girlfriend, was also charged with unlawful possession of anabolic steroids. So that plays into it, that there's reports that a large cache of weapons, I always love when they say that, a large cache of weapons was recovered from the home. So that may become federal. He fled to Clark County, Ohio, which obviously crossing state lines. Now that becomes federal. So there's questions. The charges currently are here locally out of Lake County. Sheriff Martinez took over briefly control of the department. It sounds like he's given control back to them, but obviously, you know, there's a lot of question about will there be federal charges. So, but again, this becomes that question is, it's an interesting situation of timing, MX. It's interesting that you have a 2-year long investigation and that they waited until after the primary. Again, it's interesting because the ATF was involved, if you get what I'm saying. So that didn't come out. I mean, imagine what would have happened if this arrest had happened a month ago. Would this have changed the outcome of that election? I don't know. Maybe it was held back for a reason. I don't know. But it really gets interesting when you start including the politics of the situation. You know, how did that play a role? But so, yeah, carry on, MX. So, I mean, again, it's hard for me to say that the father knew what the son was up to.
So what happens? You're a different generation than I am. What are you, generation what?
I don't even know. Whatever. I mean,
well, I was from the greatest generation.
Right.
And by the time I screwed up, by the time I got home, my father knew about it. Maybe it's the different generations.
Right. But
I guarantee you,
go ahead.
I guarantee you, somewhere along the line, somebody told somebody, hey, your son's doing this.
Let me digress for a second. No, I agree with you on that, because that's something I've been talking a lot about. That's been sort of a theme of mine lately, this idea that we've become a society without a lot of accountability. And that's where even sort of my rants last couple weeks about Chicago and stuff like that come into play, because I think as your tribe gets larger, I mean, obviously, like let's say you come from like a small Amish community. Everybody knows everybody. If somebody screws up, everybody knows about it. You know, like you said, back in the old days, if you screwed up, your parents knew about it by the time you got home. If you lived in a small community and you were speeding through town, the cop would see your dad at the bar and tell him that you were speeding. So there was this accountability. You're absolutely right. There's an accountability that we seem to not have anymore. When you go to a place like Chicago, everybody is nameless and faceless, and they can basically just be jerks, out on the street, out on the roads, and there's no accountability. So I completely agree with you about this idea that there's less accountability. You go on the internet, be anonymous, do whatever you want. It's all complete anonymity. You can do whatever you want, be a jerk, and there's no accountability. Completely agree with you there. But that becomes a question, though, is if this guy was selling steroids, allegedly, my theory is, or what I've been hearing, is that the weapons were obviously, if you're law enforcement, you get access to weapons the rest of us don't have. And again, this harkens back to the Lake County scandal from years ago, where they were using letterhead to buy things that you couldn't normally buy, and they were selling them at gun shows and things like that. So is that coming into play? I don't know. But if you're doing stuff like that, everybody knows about it, right? If you're selling steroids to other officers, potentially other people in the community, everybody kind of knows you're doing that. But, nobody was talking.
I'm sure one of them officers came back and said something. I remember the first time I got taken behind the woodshed, my father told me, I didn't raise no bums in this family, and you ain't going to be one. And I remember when my dad took my brother behind the woodshed, and my brother was just there. The people said he wasn't stealing, but his friends were. And after my dad took my brother behind the woodshed, he said, you want some of that? I said, no. He says, you'll mess up. You'll get some of that. Well, I got some of that because I messed up. Now, don't tell me that in this big world, there's more than one person knew what Jerry Williams' son was doing. And I cannot believe that it didn't get back.
Right. No, I agree. That's what's interesting.
Believe that.
Completely agree with you. This idea that, obviously, the situation where you had sort of the mudslinging, he was the guy that stayed out of that and sort of flew under the radar and, was sort of the unexpected candidate here, the unexpected winner of that. And so again, Jim, remember Jim was talking weeks ago about what a boring race it was. And it seems the race is getting more interesting now that it's over, right? It got interesting at the end and now that it's over. But again, let's not even say it's over because that was just the Democratic primary. Is there a chance that the Republicans may win this one? David Crane may win. I don't know. What will be the fallout of the situation? Will people still be talking about it in November? I don't know. So again, it's very interesting.
It's gonna. I want my buddy steelworker Ron. I want him to call in because he said he was at the party and I was happy for him and I was happy for Jerry Williams. But after this, if you can't know what's going on under your own home, how are you going to know what's going on in the home place?
Okay.
The only way I will vote for Jerry Williams, if he puts himself on a lie detector test, and he comes out and it says, I didn't know nothing about it. But I can't believe that from the generation I came from. That's why when I told on Tom's show, and Tom is a good friend of mine, I don't know enough about this guy. And he's going into a place where all these officers work really hard, these Lake County officers, to be the next sheriff. Now, let's go a little deeper. I'm hearing, and I could be wrong, Sheriff Dominguez supported this man. Am I right?
He was here on these airwaves with him, yes. So I think it's safe to say that.
Now, Sheriff Dominguez should come in, and if Jerry Williams don't want to come in, both got pie on their faces till something gets explained. Before I vote for Jerry Williams, I want Dominguez to come in. I want Jerry Williams to come in. But I know for a fact, through experience, through our construction outfit at Inland Steel, outsiders don't work well. Now, they're not going to work at all.
Right. Okay.
Or they're going to lay back. They're going to lay back, Chuck, as we did.
Okay.
You said the guy that should have got it. Oh, you got another phone call? Go ahead.
No, I got other calls, but no, I'm going to take another call before I take a break. But no, I get what you're saying.
Go ahead. I'm done.
Okay.
I got a whole 6 months to talk about this. Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, you're right. You just gave us
Bye-bye.
6 months of content. Appreciate it. Well, let's just clarify that at no point there are no allegations whatsoever about Jerry Williams. There's nothing there's no reason to think he had any ties to this. There's no reason to think that he knew anything about this. Again, it was his adult son. It wasn't happening under his roof. I understand. I mean, obviously, anytime that something like this happens as a parent, you're disappointed, but obviously you're going to support your child and things like that. So, it's interesting because it's in the middle of a sheriff's race. Obviously it came out at the back end of the primary, but you still have a general election coming up in November, and will this have an effect on it? I don't know. So, but in the meantime, let's take another call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning, sir.
How come you ain't cleaning your grill, getting ready to cook out today? You're over here on this. I didn't think the station would be on, and I turn it on, and it's you.
Oh, well, yeah, tell me about it. Well, that's the most surprised of anybody. She's like, what am I doing here? 6:19 on the
First first thing I want to say is today's Memorial Day. We all got to give big thanks and think about our fallen soldiers and all the military service that kept us safe in our country. You know, it's the first and most important thing this morning and today. Okay, you know, I see something. I'm looking at a shirt that says Rail Cats. Now, South Shore Tracks is right next to that. Did you take the train?
Oh yeah,
your
absolutely.
house?
Yes, I took the new train. Yeah. No, I started on Wednesday. I finally got there. Yeah. No, I drove like a normal human being. But no, I was at the Railcats game last night. It was Indiana Beach night at the Railcats. Always a lot of fun out there. IB Crow was out there with Rusty, and they had a lot of fun with the kids. It's a lot of, I mean, as far as games go, it's the most fun that kids have, right? There's so many activities. They did tug of war. The kids get to run across the field and, catch foul balls and stuff. So as far as like just family, affordable family activities, it's one of the best things to do in the region.
Yeah. The thing is now, if you guys had a hot dog over there,
I had two.
Did you have a real hot dog? And did you only put mustard on it?
Absolutely, sir.
A real hot dog is only a hot dog, a bun, and mustard.
That's exactly what I made. That is a real hot dog. Every once in a while, I get I want to do a Maxwell Street or a Chicago style, something like that. But yes, last night I went to the old reliable hot dog with mustard on it. The way it's the way nature intended, the way God intended.
Now, pretty soon we can get Spam hot dogs.
No, don't start that.
I just found out that they're going to be coming out with Spam hot dogs.
Well, that's interesting. Well, and that's, I always talk about how you remember, like, even they had the tofu, the tofurkey hot dogs and stuff like that. Well, a couple times here on these airwaves, we tried, incredible burgers and things like that to see if anybody could tell the difference. And obviously we could. But yeah, no, they always want to mess with the hot dog. Like, don't mess with the hot dog. Like, we got one thing right in this world. It's the hot dog. Just leave our hot dogs alone.
I know. I pass by that Railcat Stadium all the time with students when I'm in the semi teaching them. But the thing is I went to a home game at the Block Stadium because I got in free, so I got to buy a couple more hot dogs.
Right.
Because I didn't have to pay to get into that Block Stadium. It's free for the whole season. And then I got a couple hot dogs and chips, and I could buy more hot dogs because I didn't have to pay to get in and watch a game. I mean, I'll try sometime maybe go to that Railcast. I mean, I'll pass by that thing. Beautiful, nice stadium, But
yeah, it's a lot of fun out there. It's affordable. It's easy to get in and out. Everything about it, just a great experience.
Yeah. And I just wanted to call in. We got a lot of problems around here locally and everything, and I'm upset with something's going on, and I'm trying to figure out what to do about it with this going on in our area. But the thing is everybody got to just behave today and think about all of our fallen soldiers. Don't matter what race, color, whoever, everybody, the fallen soldiers, protected and served and kept our country safe, And we got to give so much thanks to those soldiers, fallen soldiers, veterans, and servicemen for being able to, on a holiday Monday morning, to look at a Chuck Pullen.
Yeah, no. God bless America. If I had my little American flag, I'd be waving it right now.
So I'm gonna let you go so you can have other callers, but let's just all think about today, what today really is.
Absolutely. Good place to leave it. Yeah.
Put everything to the side. MX's father, I've heard about what his father had been through. Our fathers and other family members have been through. We got to give thanks for them, every one of them, So everybody out there have a nice Memorial Day, and just everybody just have a nice day today.
No, fantastic. Great place to leave it. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more on the backside of these messages.
When your home needs help, the last thing you need is a faceless corporation or sales-driven franchise. At Myers Companies, we've been proudly local since 1951, born and raised right here in Northwest Indiana. We're family-owned and operated, built on trust, hard work, and integrity. And because we're family, we treat you like family. Your comfort and safety always come first. For HVAC, plumbing, and electrical done right, choose Myers Companies. Local, family-owned, here for your family.
For over 100 years, Roofers Local 26 has been keeping Northwest Indiana dry and safe. Since 1919, our highly trained members have built a reputation for skills, safety, and reliability. With a 4-year apprenticeship and certifications in OSHA safety, first aid, and CPR, we deliver quality you can trust. When you need roofing done right, choose Roofers Local 26, protecting what matters most for over a century. For more information, visit www.roofers26.com.
Introducing Powers Health, a health system with a new name and a strong legacy of caring for families in our community. One with a tradition of advanced specialized services and a vision for the future. One with a commitment to medical excellence and compassionate care. Everything we do, everything we believe, powers health.
Ogren Insurance, Hammond's oldest family-owned independent insurance agency, now in its 3rd generation, providing clients in the Chicago area with products from quality insurance companies to handle your every need. Regardless of driving history, Ogren Insurance can find the right coverage for you at competitive prices. To learn more about the insurance solutions and services we offer throughout Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan, call 219-933-0076 or visit our website, ogreninsurance.com. We're located at 6929 Homan Avenue in Hammond, Indiana. Do business locally with someone you know and trust.
6:26 here in the region. Chuck Pullen here with you on a beautiful Memorial Day. Bob is out, still trying to make his way back. He might still be out on the at the 500 trying to get out of the traffic. But so it's just you and me today. We got Rob Kendall checking in at 8 o'clock down from Indianapolis. We're going to talk about the latest news down at the State House. But in the meantime, let's take a look at traffic and weather. In traffic, there is no traffic. So let's send it to weather.
There is no weather.
Fantastic. That's efficient. That's efficient radio right there. Just tell them, beautiful day. Like, no problems. Beautiful day. Go barbecue. Don't think about it. Like, don't worry about it. No rain in the forecast. 85 degrees. Just go enjoy your day. That's it. That's the weather. Have a good day. Have a good day. See you tomorrow. We're taking your calls here on a Monday morning. We're talking about the latest, obviously, last couple callers were talking about the situation out at New Chicago. I see it's making, Chicago news. It's making national news. Once again, we find ourselves, national embarrassment, allegedly. We've got some Iran news to talk about as we talk about this Memorial Day. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman says that progress has been made in the talks with the United States on a large portion of the discussion topics, but does not mean the signing of an agreement is imminent. U.S. Secretary Marco Rubio says they have a solid proposal on the table amid continuing efforts to reach an agreement. Trump has said not to rush into any agreement. So basically, you've got on one side, you got two teams negotiating a process, and Trump going, okay, not so fast. I don't want the fastest deal. I want the best deal. But obviously, the major story here has been on oil prices. I don't know. I noticed this morning gas prices are steadily declining. So if you do need to get gas today, it's going to be a few cents less painful. Obviously we've got the gas tax holiday and things like that going on. But prices are coming down, and obviously that's going to have a huge effect on the markets. The markets have been in an absolute tear lately. If you haven't checked, if you're looking for some good news, go check your 401k, go check your mutual funds. Markets are on just an absolute tear for no good reason, but that's how the markets work sometimes. But like I said, what do you guys want to talk about? Is there anything on your mind, stuff that we haven't talked about? 219-845-1100. MX was talking earlier about something that I've been sort of thinking about a lot lately, this idea of accountability and just sort of how we've created a society that really is lacking in accountability and responsibility. And I think a lot of that is coming into play when it comes to, people getting away with things or not getting away with things, people doing things, again, like this idea that you're going to allegedly sell a weapon out of evidence to a pawn shop. It's like, come on, man, that's pretty sloppy work. That's pretty sloppy. All weapons have a serial number. We all know this. Like, how do you think that you're going to get away with something like that? I don't know. Or maybe it was a setup. I don't know. Maybe new information will come out that wasn't the case. But that's why we say allegedly, and we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how that affects the sheriff's race. Obviously, there's a lot of names like MX brought up. Sheriff Oscar Martinez, former Sheriff Roy Dominguez. There's a lot of familiar names, that come up in the story. So that will be, and like you said, we've got 6 months to talk about it. So so at some point, hopefully Major Jerry Williams comes on these airwaves. He was here quite a bit before the race. Hopefully he'll come back and, bring us up to speed. Just to clarify from what MX said, there's no allegations. There's no reason to believe he had any knowledge of this whatsoever. I suspect he did not. And it's, yes, he was his son, but also on the same token, it's, you can't always take responsibility for the actions of your adult children. So there's that. We talked about the Indy 500. If you watched the race yesterday, closest race in Indy 500 history, Felix Rosenqvist wins in a 0.02 second difference between second place. A wild finish. That to me is always just, like I said, I watch the highlights and I watch the last lap. That's all for me, it's all I need to see. Like, how's it going to end? Yeah, I mean, that's about it. Like I said, we're keeping it loose here on a Monday. Lynette, not super thrilled to be here, but that's okay. But okay, so again, it's basically our day off. We're like here working. We're like the skeleton crew. Anything on your mind? Like what's been going on with you?
Not my. Oh well, my cousin came back from Texas. She just left actually this morning, but we've been hanging out all weekend. Went to Chicago yesterday. Took the train. Enjoyed the train.
Enjoyed the train.
I love the train.
Oh, to love the train. Who doesn't? They give you some little mints and a drink while you're there. So where did you go? What did you do?
We just went shopping.
You just went shopping.
Yep. I mean, there was a festival, so it was packed there.
Which festival is going on? Do you know? Is it not
the Sueños?
Okay. So just kind of like what I was saying last week, when there's a festival going on, there's lots of police there, right? Mm-hmm. There's people everywhere, so it felt very safe. And when you're walking on Michigan Avenue or whatever, there's lots of it's very safe when there's something going on, right? I mean, so again, yeah, it's on a day like that, it's very safe, and it, a couple of being most people don't have an issue doing that, but that becomes a thing, is that those 200 officers are not always standing there keeping an eye on things. That's when things get a little different, when you're walking through those tunnels by yourself and there's nobody around.
I actually didn't see any officers.
I'm sure come on.
No.
See, they're all plain clothes. That's
not even in the CTA.
No, you did.
No.
Come on. You weren't looking.
Okay, I saw two.
You saw two.
That was it.
And their dog. No, so you must be, so you went north then, you didn't go south. Well, as I said, they've been hanging out at all the stations lately because there's been state troopers, there's been an extra presence there. And that's actually been sort of an issue about the funding, because it gets very expensive to have all these extra officers. But even last week, I saw multiple officers at every L stop and stuff like that. But no, they were there. You didn't see them. They were there. They were watching you. There's cameras everywhere. That's what they want you to think. They want you to think that they're not there. And then when you slip up, then that's when they jump out. But yeah, but again, I mean, that's sort of the thing, is that there's been an increased presence, on the trains and stuff like that. We're going to get into, it's already been a somewhat violent weekend in Chicago. There's already been 20 shot this weekend alone. Either 18 to 20. There was 5 officers struck by a car after a teen takeover. So again, it's like one of those things. Chicago, I don't want to overplay it. Chicago is a very beautiful city and it's a nice place, but then there's these random things. There's these teen takeovers. I was watching a video last night, where I think MX posted it, where they're having these things down in Lower Wacker Drive. They're like setting the road on fire and doing donuts on the road. And I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens. But, yes, I'm guessing that you weren't taking part in a teen takeover. You were just going down there to spend your money down on Michigan Avenue. So, So you said it was your cousin? What is your cousin like? What do people from out of town think about Chicago?
Well, no, she's from here.
She's from here?
Yeah,
Okay.
she had to move to Texas, but she came here for her graduation from IU East. And she was here for the entire week. And now she's moving back. She's going back to Texas to be miserable over there again.
No,
No one really likes Texas.
Well, then why does everybody move there?
Well, she was forced to.
She was forced to move there. I've never been. I've never been down there, but I mean, it's one of those places. It's like Indiana. A lot of people are leaving California and moving there. What part of Texas? Like,
She's from Roma, which
Okay.
is kind of in the middle of nowhere. My family's usually from McAllen or Mission when we go to visit.
and that's way far south, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, and that's the thing. It gets hot down that way, right?
Yes.
But I mean, also you've got how far is Austin? Like a few hour drive?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're nowhere near Austin or Dallas or anything fun. So you're kind of out in the middle. But yeah, that's the thing about Texas is either you live in Austin or you live in the middle of nowhere, basically. But no, I get that. But again, it's one of those places that's growing because a lot of people are leaving other places. So you've got a lot of people leaving California, moving there, just like people are leaving Illinois and moving here because of the tax climate, you know? So, I mean, when you say you're forced to move down there, some people move down there for jobs, you know, because you got to go where the jobs are. So when somebody comes back to the region, what do they like to do? They like to go eat. Like, I got to go get Chicago food. Like,
Oh, yeah. We've been going out to all the restaurants, Antique Mall, obviously Chicago, we have to. We always go to Chicago together.
Well, and that's sort of the thing is like whenever you bring people in from out of town, it's like, well, what do you do around here? You know, we got a lot to do, but it's like everybody just wants to go to Chicago and go eat deep dish and stuff like that. So it's like you're not going to take them to a Railcats game or something, but it's a lot of fun. It's not something that comes to mind. So it's sort of like when I had family in from the East Coast, it was, you know, take them to Michigan, take them to Chicago, and we didn't spend a whole lot of time here. And that's sort of the thing is, you know, we always talk about the activities, but when it comes time that people come in from out of town, you're not like, hey, let's go to Maryville and hang out in Maryville for the day, right? I mean, that's sort of the thing. It's like, let's go to Chicago, let's go to New Buffalo, let's go to the Antiquing, let's go to the outlet malls or whatever. So, but are you going to go to Texas then? Have you been down there lately?
Yeah, we usually go every other year in December for the holidays.
Yeah. That's a good time to go, right?
I didn't go last year because I was still new here and I didn't want to take 2 weeks off already.
Jim wouldn't have cared. He wouldn't even have noticed.
That's why we have to hire more people.
Right. Well, no,
I wouldn't want to leave Adriana here all by herself.
No, I agree. Well, and that's what we were saying earlier is that, you know, when I first got my start here, it was me doing holidays for Jim because Jim was like, hey, I'm taking the day off, but we want somebody to cover. So it was like me and like a vacation producer. We had no idea what was going on. We're just like here, like pushing buttons, trying to get on the air. So in that regard, things have gotten a little better here in that regard. But yeah, no, it'd be nice for you guys to be able to take days off. So we need to find some random people just to throw them in the booth. We should make like Gino or somebody come in. Gino knows how to run a show. I should tell him to come in on next holiday. Or you should just do, you know what you should do is we should have like a wheel and just put everybody's name on it and go, okay, it's 4th of July. You spin the wheel and whoever's name it lands on. That includes Jim. That includes Lori. Everybody has to come in. We'll see whose name pops up. So, but you want to take? Do you want to take the call or want to take a break? Want to just take the call?
Let's take the call.
We'll take the call. So, good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I'd like to start with something positive.
Okay, I'm glad you got something.
I'll get into something negative,
Yeah.
but in any case, this is out of the Times, May 17th, headline, A Look at Social Security's Annual Baby Names List.
Okay.
So let's look at the boys list. Would you like to guess what is the most popular boy's name given?
So I'm guessing it's not
2025?
like Joseph or something like that, right? It's probably something.
Definitely not.
Okay, go ahead. What's the first name?
Liam.
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 Well, we have one of those here at
Yeah.
the station. Go ahead. So, who?
Then there's the top five include Noah, Oliver, Theodore, Henry. Then finally James,
So James.
a normal name.
Right.
I don't.
Well, a biblical name. So so the Peters, John, James, at least one of them still on the list. Well, you got Elijah on there too. So you got Elijah, William. So a lot of the classics still on there. I mean, we're not naming our kids Apple and Box anymore, so that's good. My generation was doing that. We were naming our kids things that you couldn't pronounce. Do you have the girl's name in front of you? I pulled up the list. You have the girls' names in front of you?
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
It's the most popular girl's name in 2025, Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
Olivia. Do you know any Olivias?
I know my neighbor. I know a few Olivias. Yeah.
Then there's Charlotte,
Yeah.
Emma, Amelia, and Sophia.
Mm-hmm. You go down the line. We've got Mia, Isabella, Evelyn. We've got two Sophias. You've got Sophia with both spellings, just to make it extra confusing. You have both Sophias, and Elena? So it's interesting. Walt, I was listening to somebody the other day because we were joking about how for a while people were giving their kids weird names, and one of the things is that again, sort of going back to that, it's sort of the selfishness of the parents was they would give their kids a strange name just because they wanted to be different. And what we found on the back end was if you have a strange name that people can't pronounce, they don't talk to you as much. They don't, like, the teacher doesn't call on you in class, and people like, I don't know how to pronounce that person's name. So like, I'm not going to talk to them. Right. So you have a name that has, like Elon did that to his son or his daughter. I forget at this point, but I mean, that's sort of the thing. You give somebody a unique name and then people are like, I don't know how to pronounce that name. So I'm not going to talk to them or call on them. So again, sort of selfish, but okay. So what else? What's the bad news? We got the good news. We've got baby names. So Social Security keeping track of the names because, again, I always joke that's your child's first piece of mail. That was my daughter's first piece of mail. She got her Social Security card like 3 days after she was born. The one thing government's efficient at is getting you on the taxpayer list.
For sure. Any case, do you remember the movie A Clockwork Orange?
I trying to remember. I don't know if
Stanley Kubrick movie.
I believe so. Kind of one of those Kubrick movie. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, it was based in England,
mm-hmm.
and it dealt with the ideas that society was rapidly going out of control, and the powers that be, instead of going after the criminals engaged in violent behavior and so forth, they held them up as victims.
Right.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, a little bit, Walt. I don't know.
Well,
go ahead.
If you tolerate teen out of control violence, and they're not limited to spinning in their cars, they're attacking people on the street.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Right. I mean, and like I said, I saw one of those instances last week where, there's a lot of, that's one of the scariest things is that it's gone from targeted violence to random acts of violence, right? And I was telling the story about you're downtown and, some guy just walks up behind an old lady and punches her in the head or attacks you. Yep. I mean, it's becoming more random, but I guess that's sort of the thing, Walt, is I look at, is that a symptom? I think a lot of this comes back to the fact that our society doesn't want to address the mental health crisis, right? We have this when you see these people that do this, it's obvious that they have mental health issues. It may be addiction, it may be et cetera. But at the end of the day, I mean, and this could be a bigger discussion about how going back to who is it, Kennedy and people like that, we used to have places for people. They weren't the nicest places in the world, but we had places to put people with these mental illnesses. And then we kind of just let them all out into the world and didn't have a plan, right? And that goes back to Kennedy and a few other people that we got rid of these places to put people, and so now they're just sort of roaming the streets. They're homeless, they're attacking people, they're causing problems. But it's kind of like I said, when like in Chicago, when somebody gets arrested for attacking little old ladies, it's never his first offense, right? He's got a rap sheet 2 miles long with 100 offenses. So it's like one of these, it's like one of the things I always think back, Walt, to one of the things my grandmother told me when I was younger. She said something along the lines of, 1% of the people cause 99% of the problems. So avoid the 1%, those 1%, right? And I mean, that becomes a thing as you look at it and say, well, it should be pretty easy for society. If you've only got 1% of the people causing problems, you just, you keep those people on your radar and you grab them and, you hold them accountable. But what happens when that 1% becomes 2% or 3%? Now you've got a problem on your hands. And I think Chicago is a perfect example of that, where whenever something happens, whenever one of these people is charged with a heinous crime, and it's like, well, they've been arrested 100 times and we didn't do anything about it. So, I mean, again, I think it's part of the accountability.
I disagree with the idea that it's just 1% of the population.
Well, I'm saying
it's a rather large,
right? No, but I'm saying
in the big cities.
No, right. That was her point. Was if it's only 1%, but what if it becomes 3% or 5%? Right? But
I mean, much more than that.
Or much. Well, but I'm saying
like Chicago.
I'm saying the career criminals, basically the people that commit these crimes, or you've been arrested 100 times. They are sort of the minority. And it's like one of those things where if we dealt with them, the broken window philosophy, if you deal with these people when they're doing petty crimes, they're not, we don't just let them out into the world until they finally murder somebody or what have you. So, I mean, that's sort of the thing, is that there are people that commit a lot of crimes in their career, and we never deal with them until it's sort of too late. Irina Zarutska is a perfect example of that. The guy had been arrested 100 times until he stabbed her on the bus. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing where, when you have a system that doesn't want to deal with these things. But again, to your point, even I was reading a story about the ladies that go and stand outside of Luigi Mangioni's trial, right? These people that fawn over him because he allegedly killed a United Healthcare worker, healthcare CEO. And the fact that, people are making candles in cold blood. Got
him down. He was walking past and they just shot him in the back. The guy tried to stumble away and he followed him, kept pumping bullets into him. And, but all you have to do is go back to the Black Lives Matter insurrection that hit 100 cities across America, including Chicago. I mean, there were 3 waves of violence, and the mayor, Lightfoot, who was a federal prosecutor at one time, police and the business of people begged her to call up the National Guard to back up the cops, because cops said, "Look, we're going to be overwhelmed. We need backup." And he said, "No, it will just make matters worse." And there were 3 waves of violence, and we're still living with it. I mean, because they allowed that large numbers of blacks go engage in really serious violence. It promoted the sense of we can go anywhere we want now to be violent. We can go to the Gold Coast. We can go to North Michigan Avenue, and of course, look at the stores that are boarded up and empty. I mean, the office space the
vacancy rates
empty.
Right. No, and that
then you people stop using the public transportation, and those who do use it are vulnerable.
Right. Well, and that was sort of my point. Is
you have to stop it right from the beginning. You got to stop talking about it. You got to stop saying, "Oh, they're disadvantaged," blah blah blah. You have to put a stop to it, or you're going to see much, much, much worse. And that's the process we're seeing now.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is, I mean, even you look at, Ken Griffin's been in the news a lot. So I was there when Ken Griffin left Chicago. I was there for his last press conference where he said, we're leaving, we're moving to Miami. And then, so basically he was splitting his investment between Miami and New York. And now you've got Mamdani literally outside of his house saying, hey, this guy owns this big mansion in New York, basically calling him out. So what did Ken Griffin do? He said, that's fine. I will take my money down to Miami. Right. I mean, that's sort of the thing is that, that's a lot of money that you look at it as sort of real estate. He had they had a spot on Wacker Drive, but also you have all of these high income people paying taxes, paying into your system. When he left, he took all of those people with him to Miami. If he leaves New York, he's taking all of those people and all of their property taxes and all of their income tax. He's taking all of those taxes that come with that company down to Miami with him. And I mean, it's baffling to me when you see somebody like Mamdani attacking basically one of the wealthiest people in your community. He's paying more taxes than most combined in your city, and you're calling him out saying he's not paying enough taxes. He's just going to say, I'm going to leave. He's already left Chicago. Now he's going to leave New York. And again, it's baffling that people like, Mamdani don't see that bigger picture where it's like, you can't afford to chase these people out, but that's exactly what they're doing.
He knows the story. He's just a hack, communist politician. But let's look at the federal income tax. You'll be amazed as to how many people, when you say to them, the upper 50% of incomes in the United States pay 98% of the federal income tax.
Right.
And so the lower 50% essentially pay none. And they look at, oh, that can't be. What are you talking about? I remember when Bush Jr. had his rebate program, up to $300, depending on how much taxes you paid. And you had people calling into WJOB complaining, I haven't got my $300 check. And they were asked, well, how much federal income taxes you pay? Well, none. Well, that's why you're not getting the rebate, because you paid no taxes.
Well, you paid no taxes. You've gotten services from a government. You've paid nothing in, but yet you're attacking Elon Musk for only paying $15 billion into the system, right? It was interesting. Trump said the other day, I'm trying to think of what he essentially said that, people that earn under a certain amount shouldn't pay any taxes, which is for the most part sort of how it is now. But again, this goes back to that idea, Walt, is that for the average person, this idea of, I'm getting a refund. Well, that was your money to begin with. And, again, this sort of just shell game of how we treat paying taxes in this country, where people don't really understand. I tell people, I said, when's the last time you looked at your pay stub and actually understood where that money is going and why it's going there? Not a lot of people do. Just at, April 15th, you file your taxes, you go, oh, I got a refund, right? I mean, that sort of thing. And they really don't understand what they're doing. And then, so they're critical. They said, start a business, start a couple businesses, like some of us don't file the 1040EZ form, right? Some of us spend a month going through trying to account for everything, trying to sort. I'm unlike the Pentagon, my business doesn't get to make up numbers. So, I spend a huge portion of my time filling out these forms, doing taxes, trying to account for everything for my businesses. And it's a big waste of time. It could be so much simpler. And a lot of people don't understand that. And they don't understand. I always say, have you ever run a business? Have you ever tried to start a business? I just started an LLC the other day. You spend hundreds of dollars and you're constantly getting stuff going, well, you forgot to file this, or are you filing that? Are you doing this? It's a huge quagmire. And most people that complain about it have never had to do it, and that's sort of the thing, is that they just sort of complain. It's like, well, why don't you try it? Why don't you try starting a business and go through all the paperwork? I mean, trying to hire employees, and it's just a huge mess. That should be a lot simpler. So, but hey, Walt, I appreciate you checking in today. We do have to take a break. Good stuff there. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully you have a barbecue, and thank you for your service as always. So let's take a break. We'll be back with more after this.
Summer's coming, and Deep River Water Park is taking applications for all positions. We have jobs both inside and out for all ages that offer great benefits. Free admission on your day off for you and a friend. Free uniforms, paid training, make new friends, flexible scheduling, and more. To apply, just go to deepriverwaterpark.com and you're on your way to a summer of rewarding fun.
Deep River Water Park. It's simply splash-tastic.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strachan Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
6:54 in the region. We're here with you. A couple people in the comment section. Well, I'm surprised there's live radio. Well, not as surprised as Lynette is, but we're here with you on a Monday morning. Bob went to his first Indy 500 yesterday. Thought it'd be an easy and easy out, as he learned, and he'll probably tell you about on Friday. It's an all day thing. It's an adventure, getting in, getting out, especially if you're not a veteran at doing that. So he went for his first time. So I can't wait to hear his feedback on traffic and getting in, getting out, and all the festivities. But again, it's, what do they say? It's May in Indiana. So, for a lot of people down that way, that's a big part of their season, of their spring, is revolving around the 500. It's interesting, just sort of, because we are so far removed from Indianapolis, we look at it a little bit differently than people that are, in Indianapolis or in Speedway, Indiana, or in the suburbs of Indianapolis. So it'll be interesting. Rob Kendall calling in about an hour. I want to get his thoughts on that. Just sort of, again, this sort of idea that one of the reasons I like to keep Rob and people like that calling in and checking in with us is because there's a lot going on in Indianapolis that doesn't make its way up here. We've got so much going on here. We're always talking about, the last person who was indicted, and we're talking about things in Chicago that we don't spend enough time here on local radio talking about the things that affect us down in Indianapolis. So we'll be talking about Diego Morales. We'll be talking about just all sorts of things that you probably haven't even heard about unless you go out of your way to follow, like go to the Rob Kendall show, who's on 3 hours a day now, every day, except for today, which is why he's got time to call in. If you read the Indy Star, stuff like that. But again, it's like one of those things, we are so far removed from Indianapolis politics, but at the end of the day, the decisions they're making down there have a huge impact on us. Obviously, SB1, property taxes, property tax reform, and, Bob's talked about how this affects communities, funding mechanisms, property taxes, et cetera. All these decisions are being made, and we're sort of just on the periphery, not really paying a lot of attention. So hopefully we'll get into all that with Rob. But in the meantime, we're taking your phone calls, but we should just real quick look at traffic and weather. There's no traffic. There's no weather. Weather is beautiful, right? 85 degrees, sunny, barbecue weather. Enjoy your time. I'm going to go to the pool later. But take some time out. Think about the people that fought for this country and didn't come back. And, those that sacrificed it all to keep us free. As MX, or was it MX that said they sacrificed so that Chuck can be with you here on a Monday. So let's take a call. Good morning, caller on the air.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. This is today is Memorial Day, and I'm going to change the topic a little bit.
Feel free. That's what I love it. Go for it.
Okay. So I am a North Township resident, and I spend a lot of my time at Wicker Park, Memorial Park.
Okay.
And I guess I'm just amazed by the amount of non-residents using the park.
Okay.
And I just thought that, you can't go anywhere in the state of Illinois, it seems like, whether you're going to the beaches or you're going to the city or the neighborhoods or to any type of local festival without having to pay to park. And I think that the township should consider charging out-of-state residents to use the park.
Right.
I think it could be a very simple process. I think they could put in a license plate reader and to have access to the park. Open the gate, you slide in. You have to post advance notice, 60, maybe 30 or 60 days in advance, that you're going to be charging for parking. But I just guess it'd be another way for the township to raise significant revenue to improve the park overall.
No, I think that's a perfect point. I remember when I was in Munster, they had, they built the new park there. And one of the things they didn't expect was, like you said, so many people from every time I drive by there's somebody doing a prom photo shoot, a wedding photo shoot, whatever. And that's great. It's a beautiful place, but it became such a popular place that people, like you said, were coming in from all over. So now they went to this paid parking model just to keep people, from being there all day. The Walhalla Beach, same way. You paid parking, and they're very strict about, making sure you buy a parking pass and things like that. So no, it's a valid point. And that's one of the things that we really don't think a lot about until you have something like that. You have a beautiful park like that or a beach that you really don't think that when you build something like that for your people, that lots of other people are going to want to use it. And how is that going to impact traffic? I mean, Walhalla, I've been there several times when the train stopped and my wife's on one side of the train and I'm on the other. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be a little while. Train's not moving. You're stuck. And you got this huge traffic jam because of the train, whatever. But no, you're right. I mean, that's sort of an interesting thing is that when you build nice things, people are going to want to use it. So that's a very valid observation. And, obviously
with technology today, it could be done overnight.
Right.
I mean, if someone is renting one of the facilities, they can build in the parking charge for non-residents or out-of-state residences. A lot of out-of-state golfers use that, and I'm pretty sure that the out-of-state golfers pay an added fee. And here again, if they're there golfing, they can have that their parking validated through the pro shop there. But I just think it'd be a great way for the township to pick up additional fees to not only to improve the park, but to add to their overall operating budget.
No,
that's all I got to say.
That's a valid observation, and I would just remind you that North Township does have a show here in WJOB. I don't know, Lynette, do you remember what day it is, or are they coming up soon? If you get a chance, look it up at some point. But yeah, they do have a show here, so I think you definitely we'll let you know when they're on next. But that would definitely be something to call in and bring up to their attention, because again, it's like one of those.
On your way home this afternoon or this morning, you should drive through the park, and I'll bet you up 2 out of every 3 cars is from Illinois.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's something that, that becomes, not even just the park, even just going to the store, things like that. It's something my wife's always mentioning, like, what are all these Illinois plates doing here, all these people? But again, that's sort of the thing is when you have nice things, other people are going to want to use it, right? I mean, and that's sort of the discussion Walt and I were just having is, if you live in the south suburbs, for instance, it's kind of like, well, we can drive over to Indiana. Things are cleaner, nicer, lower sales taxes, get some gas while we're there, buy some fireworks. So for a lot of people, it's like, do we go to Chicago or do you go to Indiana? And that's sort of, again, one of those things that one of those unintended consequences of having nice things is your neighbors want to use them. So no, valid observation. And I definitely would consider, call in when North Township is here next and bring it to their attention, because I think that's a great thing. And especially if the people here that paid for those amenities don't get to use them because other people are using them, I think that's definitely something to bring to their attention. So I think great idea on that. So
thank you for your time.
Certainly. Enjoy the rest of the day. It's 7:01 here in the region. Chuck Pullen here on AM 1230, 104.7 FM in beautifully rustic Hammond, Indiana. We're taking your calls for the next hour. We're chatting about whatever, anything on your mind. It's open line, wild card, whatever you want to call it. Mondays, anything. You want to throw me a curveball, talk about something we haven't talked about on the radio. I'm here for it. I love it. So let's take some calls. So good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Chuck. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Good. The last gentleman brought up an excellent point. But let's face it, we have privilege in this county.
Right.
Because if we're going to be fair, I constantly hear Deedlow say he wants to use Dave from Gary home as a parking spot for him and his family, whereby you have the poor people of the city of Gary who have deplorable conditions in their parks. That fee that he would pay, if he would pay like the rest of the individuals, would help the poor people of the city of Gary improve their lot in life, because the parks in the city of Gary are deplorable. But see, we have privilege. People want to throw that term around a lot, white privilege. Well, that's an example of white privilege, in my opinion. Just like it's an example of privilege when we have elected officials who do things and just act just in an unprofessional manner. You're bringing up earlier this situation with the son of the potential sheriff candidate, and I'm not going into the specifics of that case, but my point is, those of us who follow laws, and I've seen this my whole life, especially as it relates to guns, firearms, we as citizens for decades, Chuck, decades, particularly if you grew up in a county, a city whereby when you used to have to apply back in the day for a right to carry a firearm, especially in the northern communities, they would make it so difficult for us to basically intimidate you into basically not really wanting to apply for your constitutional right, i.e. the Second Amendment to carry a firearm. I know specifically, and see, I wasn't intimidated. My family was never intimidated by the power structures within the city of Gary, whereby you had to, quote unquote, make an appointment with the police chief just to see if he, quote unquote, approves your process of applying for a Second Amendment application to carry that firearm. Even though he knew in his heart of hearts, regardless of what he stated, they're going to send the paperwork down the state and you were going to be approved. That wasn't the point. It was just to intimidate you. And then it would be you come in on Wednesday when 99% of the people work during the week. You come in on Wednesday, for instance, between 12 and 12:45 p.m.
Right. You
and
go in there and they say
out at that time,
and you get there and the sign says out to lunch, right? But here, let's digress on that for a second, because you bring up that, but also I was thinking about when you brought that up, the high profile cases, McDonald versus Chicago. Mr. McDonald fought for basically had to sue the city to get a right to carry. You remember even on these airwaves years ago when Indiana went to constitutional carry, one of dozens of states now, people were calling and saying it's going to be the Wild West. People are going to have gunfights out at the grocery store, and there was all this fear mongering that when we went to constitutional carry, it would be chaos. And guess what? Nothing. I would say things are better and safer here, right? It's sort of that thing where there's always this fear mongering that, it's going to be chaos, it's going to be the Wild West, and then nothing. It's been perfectly fine. And I would say gun crimes, things like that have gone down, historically. So.
But if we bring it up now, Chuck, that's old news. We talked about it. We went through that in depth on this station. No, you didn't. Yeah, you went through it in depth. It was just like you alluded to. I specifically remember listening to the man from Lowell. He used to call up and say that every once in a while. He said, "Where's all the shootings? Where's all the Wild West scenarios?" Like you just pointed out. But see, but it's almost like when people bring up the past. You talk about MX is talking about the greatest generation, and I could concur because I remember, Chuck, when the seat belt violation was what they used to call a secondary infraction.
Yeah, it wasn't right. You couldn't pull you over for it. You couldn't they didn't put points on your license, things like that.
Yes.
Right.
And then it got to be, now it's an excuse to pull you over. Now it's a ticket. But I wear my seatbelt. That's not the point. But the point is I remember specifically my elderly family members. Put your seatbelt on. Put your seatbelt on. My point is, elderly people from that generation, i.e. the greatest generation, like MX repeatedly states, if there's a law, they're going to follow it religiously, regardless of the law.
Well, but hang on, though. That same generation had their kids all sitting in the back of the pickup truck or in the back of the station wagon without seatbelts on, too. You know what I mean? So it's like follow the law, but then they let their kids sit in the back of the pickup truck. So,
Exactly. That's a good point, because I always think of people's nostalgic parts of history, we were so great, the baby boomers. When I used to think, I'll be honest with you, Chuck, we used to drive drunk, didn't matter at all. As a matter of fact, some of us enjoyed drinking. Some of us enjoyed party. I know that's sacrilege to some of the perfect people out there.
Statute of limitations on that is expired, but you're okay.
Some of us enjoyed it, Chuck.
Right.
Okay. Some of us enjoyed it.
Well, okay. So let's talk about that. That's again sort of this idea of an adult can decide, should I be driving? And that's sort of the thing is that this always, just like the last caller was talking about, these, people that are coming in from out of town, and they're, a lot of people say, well, these people come in from out of town and they leave the garbage everywhere at the park and they ruin the park for everybody. This idea that, and like Walt and I were talking about earlier, the 1% of people are ruining it for everybody else, right? This right. Small portion of people are making society worse for everybody, and we just don't know what to do with them. Nobody wants to hold them accountable. So they spend their whole lives not being held accountable for their actions, and then eventually they do something serious enough that they end a life and they're on the news and things like that. And we go, well, we've been arrested 100 times and let go 100 times. Maybe somebody should have done something those 100 times.
Yeah, but if Walt brings it up to certain talk show hosts on this station, he'll hear, we brought that up. We talked about that.
Right.
Okay, isn't that the point? Do you see the pattern? Do you see the pattern when you say what you say is the power of the mic? We've talked about that. So what does that tell you? A caller to a local station is bringing up repeatedly scenarios where people who have broke the law with serious infractions get away with it time and time again. But I would suggest to you and Walt it's worse, because this is the George Orwell scenario.
Sure.
What we're doing now in society, Chuck, we're making the people that break the law the victim.
Well, I was thinking about,
again.
but so even going back to when he brought that up earlier, I started thinking about the Nick Shirley law in California, right? The guy exposing the fraud is the one they're going after, not
Correct.
the people, or the Luigi Mangione. They're out there lighting candles for the man who allegedly killed somebody in cold blood on the street in New York. Like that again, those are, you get to that point in society where you go, okay, you would think the average person would go, okay, this is a problem. Like you said, the Orwell situation where it's like, wait, no, that's the guy exposing the fraud. He's not the bad guy. The people that are defrauding you of billions of dollars, those are the bad guys, and those are probably the ones you need to be going after.
Exactly. And even in news today, and you can look it up, there was an African-American 75-year-old woman. She went in a restaurant, I believe it's a coffee shop by the name of Tommy Horton. The African-American 75-year-old woman started a fight with the worker. She put her hands on the worker first. Subsequently, they got into a physical altercation. Granted, the employee should not have done anything, but the employees had hands put on her first. They got into altercation. The elderly 75-year-old black woman subsequently passed away. Nothing to do with the altercation, but she had a heart attack. That woman is suing. She has a civil rights attorney, a high-powered civil rights attorney right now representing her, and the community says, we need justice. Look at the tape. She put her hands on the worker first. That's totally beside the point. You mentioned earlier, you repeatedly mentioned the scenario with the young lady who was killed by the African-American
right, Irina
on
Zurutska.
the bus.
Mm-hmm.
I think about that all the time, Chuck, as a concealed carry trained always. If I was in the back seat of that young lady, think about this, Chuck, trained, okay, and you have seconds to react. If I would have put 2 rounds in the back of that man's head, I guarantee you have people on this airway, some who host on these airways, I guarantee you they would say, that person who shot that man needs to go to jail.
Well, and
do you think that's an incorrect statement or not?
Let me digress, because this is something, I don't know if you're listening, I was talking about this last week. I was downtown Chicago. I was in West Loop. Was it 2 weeks ago now? And there was a homeless man on the street defecating on the sidewalk, and there was a little old lady trying to get around him, and he started shouting at her and was acting like he was going to get physical with her. And I was close enough where I can see what was going on, but I was still far enough away that I couldn't do anything at the moment. But the thing that upset me the most is that I hesitated, because I thought to myself, if I have to stand up for this little old lady and do the right thing. But if I do, like you said, I may become the villain in this story because I stopped a man from hurting a woman. And so I hesitated, and I hate that happened. And I hate myself, and I hate the city of Chicago for making me feel that way, because on more than one occasion, I've been in downtown Chicago and I've seen a larger male harassing a smaller female. And I've said to myself, I need to do something, but also what are the implications? Going back to Daniel Penny on that train in New York. Like, I need to do the right thing, but there's also going to be consequences for doing the right thing. And I hate that I have to be somewhere that's the scenario. I have to question doing the right thing because I become the villain.
That's why I'm very hesitant to when I hear people with these macho talking people, just because you have your right to carry and you do everything right. You do everything right. Don't be so quick to think that your life won't be a living hell if you do the right thing. And unfortunately, it's our government, Chuck. It's our government that's putting us in that scenario. You know what I mean? But again, you read it time and time again. You just talked about the selling of the firearm, allegedly the Taurus, which is a Taurus firearm. Why? But in addition,
you got $90 for that thing. But again, to your point though, is, and I tell people all the time, I said, even doing the right thing in that scenario, you're going to lose your weapon. So if you've got a $500 Glock, you're going to lose. You're out $500. You're probably not going to get that back. If you do, it's going to be 5 years later. You're going to have to fight.
100%.
You're going to have to hire a lawyer to get your. So even if you're in the right and you're completely cleared, you're going to lose your weapon. I mean, so I hope it's not something you, but again, it's like one of those things like that shouldn't be that way. It should be, here's your weapon back and here's a commendation for saving somebody's life. No, you have to go to court and fight us to get your weapon back.
Good day, Chuck.
Good day, sir. Thank you for checking in. Appreciate you as always. Do you want to take a break now and then we'll just kind of reset? So let's take a break and we'll be back with more. Like I said, 219-845-1100, open phone lines. We're talking about whatever for the next 45 minutes till Rob Kendall calls in. I want to hear from you guys. What's on your mind? What are you doing today? All that good stuff. We'll be back with more after this.
It's gold rush time at Albert's. Oh, looky here. Oh, those are going to fetch a pretty penny.
Who's going down from us?
I'll buy that gold from you.
What did you say?
I said I'll buy that gold from you, and I'll give you top dollar.
That sounds great.
It's gold rush time. We will see you at Albert's.
Fox Point's free summer Wednesday night concert series kicks off June 3rd with 16 candles. As June heats up, dance to Rico, Boy Band Night, and the Chicago Experience. Then join us for our first free Friday Night Lights concert featuring Fearless, a Taylor Swift tribute, and Beyond the Blonde on June 26th. Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is just minutes from I-8094 and parking is free. Visit foxpoint.org for our full schedule. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
Are you sausage curious?
Who's ready for a Polish?
Big Frank Sausage has the very best Polish food in the region.
You had a mouthful of Big Frank sausage?
We have a full bar, dine-in, carry-out, delivery, and catering available.
I've had a mouthful of Big Frank sausage.
I've got a mouthful of Big Frank sausage.
219-378-9556. Smacznego i na zdrowie.
Who's ready for a Polish?
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention.
Phones. I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, business manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
7:18 here in the region. Chuck Pullen with you on a Monday. Bob's still stuck in traffic down in Speedway, Indiana, trying to leave he might still be there at the stadium grounds. I don't know, trying to find his car. But made his first trip to the 500. He'll be back here, I assume, on Friday, and he will tell you all about his trip to the Indianapolis 500. Felix Rosenqvist wins the 500 with the closest finish in history, just a little under 0.02 seconds between him and the guy in second. A wild finish to the race. So, again, it's a big part of Indiana. This is May, as we say in Indianapolis. But again, it's sort of like one of those things. Are we sort of, removed from the Indianapolis? Do a lot of you guys go down there? I've never been. Maybe someday I'll go. But, is it as big a deal up here as it is down there? Something sort of dawned on me over the break. We have gotten so accustomed to violence and threats against the president that I completely forgot to even talk about the fact that there were shots fired at the White House over the weekend. That's how commonplace it has become. Like, it's not even, it should have been breaking news, top story. And I completely forgot about it because we've just gotten so accustomed to people shooting at the president. So I probably should talk about that because it's kind of a big story. So a male suspect identified as Nashir Best, 21 of Maryland, not Maryville, was fatally shot by Secret Service agents around 6 o'clock Eastern Saturday after he allegedly opened fire with a pistol near a White House checkpoint. President was unharmed. An adult civilian bystander was shot during the gunfire exchange, and one Secret Service agent was taken to the hospital as a precaution. Best had prior encounters with the Secret Service on at least 2 occasions in 2025, had a history. There you go. A history of mental health issues, that nobody addressed. Thank you. Thank you and good night, right? A history of mental health issues that we didn't address, and now he's dead because he was shot by Secret Service because nobody wanted to get him help. Thank you. Good night. FBI, ATF, Metropolitan Police Department are assisting with the ongoing investigation. So, yet again, and this happens, unfortunately, regularly. This has happened under, there's been shots fired at the White House multiple times under multiple presidents in my lifetime. And most of the time, this guy called himself Jesus, and he had lots of mental health issues. They were not addressed. They were not properly, maybe he was not properly diagnosed. He was just kind of left to his own devices, and he got a gun and he shot at the White House, and now he hurt other people, and now he's dead. Right? I mean, again, predictable. Everything we were just talking about earlier today about accountability and mental health, all of those things came into play here, and they weren't addressed until he was shot by Secret Service. So, but again, I mean, that becomes this thing is that threats and attempts on the president's life have become so commonplace that I almost forgot to talk about it. Is that not crazy? I mean, is that the world we live in? And, I take full responsibility for that. That should have been breaking news this morning, but I just completely forgot to talk about it because we had so much else to talk about. It's always interesting to go on social media. The controversy and the conspiracies began immediately because the president and vice president came back. The president was supposed to had his son's wedding this weekend. He came back, purportedly to deal with Iran. But then, so he comes back, urgently comes back to Washington. And while he's there, shots are fired at the White House. So immediately people say, oh, he's crying wolf again. It's another, it's another false flag against the president. And, just like the last couple of attempts on his life, it's a false flag. And, I guess he's hiring these people on Craigslist. He's like, hey, who wants to come shoot at me? Maybe he pays them $50. I don't know how that works. He's like, hey, who wants to come shoot at me? Just so I can get my ballroom. I mean, that's what half the internet is telling me this weekend is that's why this happened. He set this whole thing is set in place by the president just so he can get a ballroom. That's what people think. Again, no accountability. We should probably have dealt with these mental health crises of these multiple people that have, made attempts on the president's life. No, it's a false flag. So there you go. I mean, how do we even have a discussion at that point? It's another false flag, just so we can get his ballroom. All of this is one big conspiracy, just so the man can get a ballroom and whatever else he's doing underneath. That's what half the internet's telling me. We're taking your calls for the next 45 minutes or whatever it is. 219-845-1100. Anything on your mind? You want to talk about that? You want to talk about what's going on in New Chicago? I want to hear from you. If there's anything else on your mind, want to hear about it? You want to throw me a curveball? We'll have to do that too. So let's take a call. Good morning, caller. You were on the air.
Yeah, hi. You touched on a lot of things this morning. I think it was something like over 100 years ago now. Edward Bernays, I think it was, wrote the book Propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually related to Sigmund Freud, I think it was. But the facts nowadays, what you're talking about in our society, the way people react, they don't act on facts, they act on emotions.
Sure.
The whole idea of that book Propaganda was to actually manipulate peoples to actually get them to do what you want, to actually manipulate society and push it in the direction you wanted it to be pushed in. I think it was Walt called in earlier talking about A Clockwork Orange.
Sure.
Which came out like, 50 years ago?
Right. Yeah, in the 70s, I think, yeah.
Right. And that touches on that. That is, if you look at it, it's like he said, it's an image of almost what's going on today in our society, coddling criminals and making victims perpetrators. But this whole thing is actually, it goes back to Bernays, and what he actually helped create over 100 years ago is that societies can be pushed in certain directions and facts don't matter at all. And that's why people act the way they do. They act on emotion. They act on, it's almost like a programming kind of thing where they're actually manipulated so that you can give them all the facts you want. They're not going to logically look at that. They're going to look at how they feel.
Well, right.
I think this is a big part of what the problem is in our society today.
No, I agree. And it's interesting. I'm one of these people, I'm an analytical guy, I'm an engineer. So when somebody says something, I go, well, there's a chart for that. I remember even during the Obama administration, some of the funniest things would be somebody would make a claim and I would post a chart. I'd say, here's a chart from the Fred, the Federal Reserve charts. They have charts. Here's the chart. And they say, well, it's racist. I go, the chart's racist? So the Federal Reserve's racist? There's a chart. You cannot argue this is not up for debate. Like, here are the numbers. It's like somebody, it's like you can, I tend to get, I'm a numbers guy. So when you start talking about the debt or who did what, like there's a chart for that. Like there's no end of debate. They say, well, I disagree. It's like, no, you can't disagree with the chart. Like, and that's where my analytical brain doesn't process somebody saying, no, I don't agree. It's like, well, there's a chart. You can't disagree with the chart. You can tell me your feelings all day long. The chart is the chart. And that's sort of
your logic is at war with people's emotions.
Well,
I wish people could actually get it through your head they're being played. Have your own mind, for God's sakes. Don't let people push you in the direction that they're trying to use to their advantage. Use your own God-given mind.
Well, and Jim and I had argued this, I think it was last week he came on and we talked about sort of our responsibility here on the airwaves. I said, to me, I've always felt that my responsibility is to sort of crack the door for you so that you ask the questions. Like you said, there are people, and I've had people come up to me and say, I never thought of it that way, or I saw this and I finally realized, so for me, my approach has always been, I just want to crack the door for you and then let you open it and walk your way through, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Independent. At the end of the day, everybody's so far apart because we're all running on emotion. Like you said, everybody's been manipulated for so long by their media, by their politicians, that they don't know which way is up. And all I want to do here on these airwaves is just kind of crack the door and go, hey guys, here's what's going on. It's up for you to decide if you want to go through that door or not.
And the older people get, the harder it is for them to actually change because it's so embedded into their psyche. It's like I think Hitler said, "Give me the youth, and I could care less about the rest. Just give me the youth, and
it'll work itself out in a few generations." Right? Give it time. But I mean, that's sort of the thing. But even when I look at sort of like politics here in Lake County or anything like that, I think the problem is that far too many people, and like you said, as they get older, they get more stubborn. This idea that people won't accept, maybe I've been wrong this whole time, right? This idea that how many people are willing to say, I don't mind. I'm the first guy that if you guys call in and go, hey, that you're wrong about this. Okay. I mean, I will accept. But there's far too many people because that would mean that their entire worldview, that everything that they've sort of done, what they've based their life on they've been misled, right? And not a lot of people, especially when they get older, want to deal with that.
Right. What I'm hearing lately a lot of is the people slamming the baby boom generation for making this our society the way it is today. And being part of that baby boom generation, I understand how they feel. I can't blame them.
Right.
Like you said, the older people get, the more set in their ways they are. And they just do not want to admit they've been wrong for a good part of their whole life.
Well, I had that debate with a lot of people last week with the Thomas Massie election when he lost when he lost re-election, because when you looked at the numbers, the younger people were voting for Massie, the older people were voting for the challenger. And so, you talk about the baby boomers, the older you were, frankly, the people that spend their day watching Fox News, they were the ones that were convinced that Massie was all these things and against the president, we got to get rid of him, all this kind of stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, I look at it and I go, here's a guy who had like a 99% freedom score. Here's a guy who said, I don't care who's in the White House. I want the Epstein list released. I want justice. I mean, it's one of those things where having that sort of being principled in this, I mean, it's the same thing that John Fetterman's going through right now with his party. This idea that if you are a person of principle, you are attacked on all sides. Right. I mean, that sort of thing. It's like, and I was talking to somebody the other day. There's a friend of mine that always jokes. Every time he sees me, he says, "When are you going to run for Congress?" I go, "Do you see what these guys are going through? Do you see what Massie and Fetterman and all like? It's a man of principle should not go to Washington. Like, it's tough. Like you are going to get attacked on all sides if you do. Right. You go in there and doing the right thing, you will be attacked at all angles. You will be a pariah. Out in Washington. So why would anybody in their right mind want to run for Congress at this point?
I saw an interview with Tulsi Gabbard on the Sean Ryan
show
the other day.
Yeah, that was great. I watched that. Yeah. If you guys aren't,
when you go into Congress, you have all these ideals you're trying to actually work for, and like she said, 99% of them they get flipped within 6 months. They get that DC treatment to where people act like they walk on water. And as long as you toe the line and do what you're told by the party. Can I say Frank Mervan? Anyway, as long as you do what the party wants and what the people in D.C. want, hey, you're the greatest. But you step one step out of line and they come down on you like a ton of bricks.
Well, let's tell people about that. Yeah,
she noticed that right off the bat, and she refused to change her principles just because she was in D.C., especially with her background as being I think she was a combat veteran.
Well, and she talked about in that.
Used a total line on that.
Right. And so for those of you that aren't watching, Sean Ryan doing some amazing interviews, but she talked about this idea of like she was waiting in line for a drink. And the guy said, you're in Congress. You don't wait in line you don't wait in line anymore. What are you doing? Like, we bring drinks to you. We serve you now. It's like, no. And she said, no, that I'm going to wait in line. I mean, and that's the thing. What'd she say? As soon as you don't play ball, they forget about you. Right? As soon as you don't play ball.
It's a shame, though, because it's all manipulation. If people would just keep their own God-given mind and have their own mind and think, like you say, use logic instead of emotion, and don't let people actually, fill your head full of garbage.
Right.
You would feel a lot better about yourself.
But
I don't know.
Even though, the story, when I was watching that video, I think on Saturday, and I was thinking about what she said, and it's sort of one of those things. If you are a person, we talked about being sort of set in your ways. If you're a person with principle, well, she identified that right away. She said, look, they're trying to manipulate me. They're trying to, stroke my ego. She identified it. She knew what they were doing because she was a wise woman and she's a woman of principle. So she knew right away. And again, she talked about her time in the Democratic Party. They tried to make her a vice chair or whatever. She knew what they were doing to her from the beginning. She saw the game that was being played and she didn't get manipulated. And if you go there without that wisdom, without that, without that understanding, without that, if you go to Washington and you don't have your guard up, these people will find a way in. They will chip away at you until they've got you. And I think that story she told is a perfect example of that.
Right, and that's just D.C. Just a microcosm of what goes on in society because this happens in every walk of life. It could be the academia, it could be on the job, it could be anything. And like I say, I don't know, but like I said, Bernays wrote that book so long ago, and now they probably made a science out of it. And people are, it's tough. I know it's hard, but people need to keep their own mind. I mean, and not fall victim to this, because, like I say, like you said, you can give people all the facts you want, but if they're acting on emotion, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't end well for this whole society in this country unless we frickin' wake up to this.
Well, and that's my big concern, is that we are electing people that are running. I mean, again, this idea that you say, well, we're trying to, I mean, even going back to, like, say, Joe Biden, when he was trying to do the stuff with student loans, they kept telling him it's unconstitutional. He said, I don't care. I want to do it. It's like, well, it's unconstitutional. That's end of story. Unconstitutional, can't do it. It's like, I don't care what your feelings are. I don't care how popular it will make you. It is unconstitutional. End of story, full stop. That's it. And that's sort of the idea, is there are people that are saying, well, I don't care about the Constitution. I care about my feelings. Going back to, we talked about gun laws earlier today. Every time that there's a tragedy, we go, well, let's have one more gun law. It's like, well, we have thousands of gun laws. They didn't do the trick. One more is not going to solve the problem. One more gun law is not going to solve the mental. Even in Chicago right now, they're trying to go after, I talked about Glock earlier. Somehow Chicago thinks that going after Glocks are going to make the city safer, right? I mean, for one reason or another. It's like, no, you've already got thousands of gun laws. You already have some of the most restrictive gun laws in the world. Taking away a Glock is not going to solve the problem. I'm sorry. I know your emotions can't process that.
It's like Einstein's explanation of insanity. And the thing is, people, when you pass laws, the only people that adhere to your laws are law-abiding people. The whole idea of being a criminal and an outlaw is that you don't care about laws.
Right. Yeah. Go up to a criminal and say, hey, guess what? They just passed another gun law. Glocks are outlawed. Say, okay, yeah, cool, thanks. Don't care. I'll buy it on the black market. So, but hey, appreciate the call.
Right,
we do have to take a break. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go have a barbecue. We've got a beautiful day in store, so I hope everybody takes full advantage. But let's do this. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more after this.
Plumbers Local 210 is building the future, and we're looking for service plumbers to join our team. Our training center invests nearly $500,000 every year to make sure our members are the best in the industry. From a 5-year apprenticeship and an associate degree at Ivy Tech to ongoing certifications in safety and new technology, our plumbers are trained for excellence. Every member is drug tested and licensed for your safety and peace of mind. When you need plumbing work done, make sure you ask for the license. It's your right to ask.
Before Notre Dame Federal Credit Union, we were being charged various maintenance fees and various check writing fees for all of our accounts. And with Notre Dame, we don't have that. We have that true community partnership. We get interest based on all of our parish and school accounts, and the interest rate is really second to none.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
For over 140 years, the Central Midwest Carpenters have built our communities in Northwest Indiana. Are you ready to join the effort? We have long-term work, competitive pay, and the best benefits in the industry. We pride ourselves on innovative training and commitment to worksite safety. Earn as you learn as an apprentice. A solid career built on a solid legacy. For more info, go to carpenters.com.
7:38 here in the region. Spring chucking coming at you on a Monday morning. Monday, May 25th, Memorial Day. We don't say Happy Memorial Day, apparently. We just say Memorial Day. So enjoy your Memorial Day. Take some time. Remember those who fought and didn't come back so that we can enjoy this long weekend. we've got Rob Kendall calling in from Indianapolis at 8 o'clock. So we've got about 20 minutes just to go over some local stuff. And then he and I are going to get into the latest, just some amazing scandals that we don't talk enough about here in the region because we have our own scandals. But speaking of that, so the big story of the weekend is obviously what's going on in New Chicago. So I will bring you the latest in that, and then we'll be taking your phone call. So this coming to you from Region News Source. Kudos to Paul. He's been all over, like most things. He's been all over the story. He's been getting it right. He's been doing his homework. He's been he's been working. He's doing it the old school journalist style. He's on the phones. He's working. He's talking to people. He's getting the information before he runs with anything. He's doing his homework. I talked to him a couple times this weekend, just making sure kind of, hey, what's going on? Where are we at? And he's doing it. He's working it, hitting the streets, the old school style, and making sure he gets the story straight. So let's talk about the latest from Region News Source. New Chicago Police Chief Earl Mayo and a Maryville woman are facing multiple felony charges following an investigation that authorities allege center around the sale of a firearm tied to an active criminal case. So essentially, according to a probable cause affidavit that was filed yesterday, the New Chicago Police Chief and 48-year-old Tanika Rashawn of Maryville were charged, and investigators determined a Taurus G3 handgun connected to a pending criminal prosecution had been sold to Mega Cash Pawn in Hobart on April 29th of 2025. So there was a raid on his home, and so they are being charged with theft using a firearm, official misconduct, obstruction of justice, unlawful possession of anabolic steroids, and theft with a prior conviction and theft. So obviously these are all this happened over the weekend. These charges came out, and obviously the bigger part of this story, the bigger piece of this, is that he is the son of Major Jerry Williams, who won the Democratic primary for Lake County Sheriff on Saturday. Major Jerry Williams put out a statement, says, "My wife and I and our family are deeply concerned over recent information regarding our son, Earl Mayo, Chief of the New Chicago Police Department. We raised all of our children with love, guidance, and a strong foundation of values. We've always held our children to higher standards as we have ourselves." So, that's a big question is, as I like to say, why now? Why after the primary? Why not before the primary? And obviously this is a primary, so he still faces Republican David Crane in the general election. Will this story have an effect on the outcome of that election? It remains to be seen. As like MX and a couple people had said earlier, we've got 6 months to talk about this. And obviously, I hope that Major Jerry Williams will be on these airwaves again, like he was before the election, to talk about this. And just to clarify, there is no reason, there is no speculation, there is no talk that Major Jerry Williams had any knowledge of any of this happening. And obviously at some point, like I said, we hope to have him on the radio to kind of talk about it, but it's always a sad thing when your children get accused of a crime, and, he's going to stick by his child, and we understand that. So in the meantime, let's take some phone calls. So good morning, caller. You are on the air.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about some items raised by the previous callers.
Yeah.
One guy called in and talked about Wicker Park and commenting about how such a high percentage of people using Wicker Park are from Illinois,
right? And
called on imposing a parking fee kind of thing. The Dune State Park, this is an item out of the Times. The entrance fee jumped from $12 to $20 a carload at the expense for out-of-state visitors to get into the Indiana Dunes State Park, one of the most visited in the state. Indiana residents still must just pay $7 to visit the Indiana Dunes State Park. So it's moving in a similar direction in that the Illinois people should they should pay a stiff price for coming, because they can be on the rowdy side, and I've recommended people not from the area talking about coming to the Dune State Park, and what I generally recommend is come like on a Monday to Thursday, and don't come on the weekend, because that's when you get a lot of Illinois people, and They disrespect Indiana in the first place, and that's in many cases seem to behave that way when they use Indiana facilities. But
Walt, though, so Lynette and I started the show earlier. We were talking about how her cousin came to town and they went to Chicago, and sort of like the idea when people come in from out of town, we generally don't say, let's go to Maryville. Let's go to Chicago. Let's go to New Buffalo. Let's go to the dunes. And so this becomes sort of the question that we have is, we're always looking for economic drivers, and obviously the dunes and things like that. I mean, that's sort of the thing is, we want to encourage, we know that plenty of anybody that lives in Munster or Highland or, any of those places, we know that plenty of people come from Illinois to spend their money here. Do we want to keep it a welcoming place where come here, spend your money, buy your fireworks and your cigarettes, get gas? Do we want to keep it a welcoming place, or do we want to make it more difficult where we say, well, you can come here, but we're going to charge you more to park and come to the dunes or go to the park in Munster? I mean, I guess that's sort of the balance that we have to take is, it's people coming here to spend their money, so we don't want to turn that down. But also, to your point, you don't want a lot of rowdy people coming here and causing trouble. So we have to find that balance.
Well, those Illinois people get higher pay, which is why a lot of Hoosiers go into Illinois to work because of the better pay and benefits. So since they make more, they should pay more. And, oh, by the way, the Dune State Park, Indiana Dune State Park, for example, has been rated top 10 in the country as far as state lakeshore parks kind of thing. So it's just a good deal, and Indiana people pay for that on a regular basis through their taxes, and I see nothing wrong with expecting Illinois people, given their reputation, to pay a premium price for that.
Right.
But moving right along, the gentleman was talking about how people act out of emotion, but there are a lot of issues that the public is right on, and the leadership just ignores them. For example, let's talk about the idea of requiring ID cards to vote, kind of thing. There's overwhelming support for it. Even blacks are notorious for opposing any kind of strict enforcement of the rules, kind of thing. Even a solid majority of blacks support requiring showing your ID. And if they're Republicans, they're probably the support is over 80% kind of thing. And but in any case, the leadership of the Democrat Party just ignores the sentiment of their own voters, and they refer to any effort to require ID card to vote as racist. So in effect, they're calling black people racist on this issue. Another issue, let's bring it closer to home, and that is the Regional Development Authority big ticket projects. I remember 25 years ago when it was first instituted, and oh, by the way, it was done backdoor by Mitch Daniels, a Republican. He came into town. He wasn't even in the job as governor, and they had a closed-door operation, and they cooked up this RDA thing. And when it became public, the public was not enamored with it at all. And the Times had call-in voting on, and there was overwhelming opposition to any of the big ticket items. People, there were real problems with income decline and so forth, and so they said no. And when it came time to the West Corridor project, the demands were for a referendum. Let us vote on this. No. And I remember remember Doug Ross? He used to be the editorial page editor of the Times. He's now working as a correspondent for the Post-Tribune. But he was on WJOB, and I called in and I asked him, how do you feel about the popular calls to have a referendum on the West Corridor thing? And he says, not a good idea because people would oppose it.
Right. No, exactly. and Pete Visclosky said the same thing. I mean, and he basically blamed us for being short-sighted. So let me touch on a couple of things, Walt. When you talk about voter ID and somebody brings up, I said, look, just like you, I said, I grew up in East Chicago, Indiana. I was there when they threw out the Pastrick-Pabay race because of the rampant voter fraud. So you can't tell me voter fraud doesn't happen. I was there when they threw out an entire race, right? So it's hard for you. It's hard for anybody to convince me otherwise. And obviously, even with this when the Thomas Massey primary, there was accusations about the voter turnout was way above average. There was tens of thousands of mail-in ballots. Again, it was there were irregularities. Anybody that's, again, a statistician, anybody that follows numbers goes, there were irregularities in this election that probably need to be looked at. And that's those Republicans, right? So, I mean, that's the thing at the end of the day is that we've seen, you can't tell me that election fraud doesn't happen. I was there when it happened. So yeah, it absolutely happens. Going back to the RDA, obviously you and I have had these discussions many times about this idea, and you mentioned the governor, this idea that you can have layers of appointed officials that don't have accountability, right? The word of the day, accountability. Who do I vote out when the train's a boondoggle? Well, there's nobody. They're all appointed, right? I mean, they appointed, they hired, they are not elected. Where is that accountability? You have an appointed board appointing an appointed board, right? How many layers of onion do you have to peel back before you get back to somebody who's elected? And again, are we going to be able to affect a governor's race because he decided to create again, going back to how many governors ago. So that becomes a big question is how do we manage what happens when you have an appointed board making very bad decisions? Who do we find accountable? There's nobody. And that's the problem. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what we do except we just keep hitting it on these airwaves. We know, Walt, that the numbers recently came out for the new Monon corridor. They are less than half of the expected ridership. Ridership's a little, around 15 or 1,800. They expect at least double. So again, it's new. I'll give them time. But also the big question is, if you have 1,500 rides or 1,500 riders on your new line and 1,200 of them come from your existing line, what did you do? You spend $1 billion to get 300 more people to take your train, right? I mean, and that's the thing that I've got people that are asking for these numbers and I don't want to put them out yet. We're going to try to get them and we're going to put them out as soon as we have them. But my anticipation is that their new ridership is next to nothing. A couple hundred people are new riders. Everybody's existing. So what did you accomplish? You didn't do anything. You just made more infrastructure. You made more infrastructure that needs to be maintained. You made more miles of track and you didn't add new customers. So what did you do? You just made it more expensive. That's what you've accomplished. So
the lies that went on with the RDA, for example, when it was first being debated, of course, the House was in control of the Democrats. And of course, they are always going to support a boondoggle public works project. They don't. It's almost axiomatic they're going to do that. But the Senate had not voted on it. And I called down there, and I talked to one of the staff. I asked to talk to a legislator, but he said, "No, they're all too busy. What do you want to talk about?" And I said, "I'm here to talk about the RDA thing." I said, "Does not make any sense when you have." Government in Lake County, Indiana, as corrupt as it is, we don't really need another level of government." And he said, "Yeah, we've gotten a lot of calls, people saying pretty much the same thing." And he said, "Well, what we have been told is that the Senate, which was controlled by the Republicans, they will not vote on it until there's a public hearing. So, not to worry. This is far from being done." Well, what actually happened? They rammed it through on the last day of a legislative hearing. I mean, there was no public comment about it at all. And the Mana line, to give you some ideas how far they would go. At one point, I called in the WJOB and I said, "Will the residents of the fine community of Munster like to have those wires?" Overhead wires for the South Shore?" And as soon as I got done talking, here comes another call, and the guy says, "Oh, this is going to be a diesel. It's
right."
And I called back and I said, "That's ridiculous. The South Shore has been working on electricity for 100 years. I worked in corporate America, and I can assure you, if they've been doing something for 100 years, there's no way they're going to go to diesel, because that requires a whole new set of maintenance and so forth. They're not going to. They're not. They're not going to go to diesel. It's going to be the wires kind of thing.
Well, again, though, Walt, this goes back to the feelings versus the facts. I know that there's been a moratorium on diesel engines on the lake by the city of Chicago for over 100 years. That's how they got rid of steam engines on the all of downtown used to be a giant rail yard, and they changed the laws, and now that's why you have the bean and not a giant a giant yard there. I mean, we know that because I know my history and I know my facts. It's the same thing. I know that the South Shore, to your point, they looked at doing a diesel electric hybrid. It turns out, as you said, they don't have the facilities for it, and they cost 10 times as much. And they said, no, we'll just go to electric. We know that because I understand how these things work. I don't run on emotions. But then you have somebody that puts it out there and just says, oh no, there's not, it's going to be diesel. And then people I heard the answer I wanted to hear, so now I am happy. And then one day they look out their window and see them putting that catenary up and go, what's going on? I mean, there were people in Hammond that reached out and said, hey, why are there bulldozers in my neighborhood? I said, well, you probably should have gone to a couple meetings, because they're about to tear down half the neighborhood and build train tracks, Right. And it was unfortunate, because that's one of the things I said from the beginning is these 150 people that lost their homes, these people that their neighborhoods are being affected, that are they being adequately, informed of what's happening? I saw people in North Hammond, and I told the stories on these airwaves. There were guys building new decks and putting new roofs on their house. I said, what are you doing? They're going to tear down your neighborhood next year. I said, nah, it's never going to happen. And those houses are parking lot now, and again, because we kept those people in the dark until the last minute, and that way they got their way. So, but hey, Walt, I appreciate the call. I do have to take a break so we can get reset for Rob Kendall. Yep. Stick around for that. You're going to enjoy that immensely. So why don't we do that? So we'll take our break. We'll be back. And then we got Rob Kendall calling in at 8:00, and we're going to talk about some of the great things that are happening in Indianapolis. We'll be back with more after this.
Are you searching for a college where you belong? Calumet College of St. Joseph wants to know you and give you the support you need to succeed. Are you worried about how you'll pay for your degree? 95% of our students receive financial aid, including scholarships and grants. Need some extra help with your classes? You'll benefit from our small class sizes, free tutoring, internship planning, faculty mentors, and so much more. Come experience our accepting, supportive college family for yourself. Schedule your campus visit and apply at ccsj.edu.
Enjoy the taste of summer at the Farmers Market at Fox Point. Every Tuesday from 9 to 1, shop locally grown fresh produce, delicious baked goods, artisanal treats, and local culinary creations. Just minutes from I-8094, the Farmers Market at Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is a perfect spot to hear acoustic musicians, stretch with morning yoga, and enjoy community fun throughout the season. To see all vendors and entertainment, visit foxpoint.org. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strachan Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Labor's District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Hey, it's a couple minutes before 8:00 here in the region. Chuck Pullen with you on a Monday, May 25th, Memorial Day weekend. we are going to have Rob Kendall calling in a few minutes. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the ever important traffic and weather. There is no traffic. Is there any weather? Nope. Okay, fantastic. Moving on. So I told Lynette she could take it easy. I said, just do half the work today and get twice the pay. It's the American way. So weather just beautiful. It's a beautiful day. Go have a barbecue. Go take a minute to remember those that paid the ultimate sacrifice so that you can get up, take the day off on a Monday, tune in and watch me and Rob Kendall in a few minutes talk about what's going on in Indianapolis. A lot of crazy stories. You wouldn't believe it unless you're hearing it from Rob Kendall. We do have a little bit of breaking news that just broke in the last few minutes. Our old friend Mitch Daniels has been named the Purdue interim president. So he will, effective July 1st, Daniels, a Purdue president emeritus and chair of the board, served for 10 years as a president, and he succeeds Mung Chiang, who will become president of Northwestern on July 1st. So Mitch Daniels back, taking over back at Purdue. So what will that mean? I don't know. How long will he do it? I don't know. But interesting to talk about that. So you want to keep an eye out on that for if Rob calls in and just let me know. Just put him on. Are we ready for him? Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and put him on. Rob, is that you? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. How are you? Happy Memorial Day. Thanks to all who served and paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Absolutely, I do. Because we are still on AM radio, I have to mention it is 8 o'clock in the region. You're listening to AM 1230, 104.7 FM in beautiful Hammond, Indiana. Rob, how the heck are you?
Great. I love that you guys are so dedicated to the rules and regulations that you hit the call letters and the city of license right on the dot. That's amazing.
Hey, I'm a good libertarian. I follow all the rules, especially when it costs $10,000 if I don't do it. But and just a reminder, I know you're probably getting a little comfortable in that podcast studio. Just remember, you are on AM radio, so we are bound by the rules and regulations of the FCC. But let me.
Have you guys ever been dumped? Have you ever been dumped? Have you ever had to hit the dump button on yourself?
Not on my. You know what? I have. Here's the rule, Rob. Whenever anybody comes in on the radio, they always tell me that, right? They always say, "I'm nervous. I'm going to cuss." And you know what the golden rule, my golden piece of advice is? I said, pretend when you come on these airwaves, always pretend you're sitting in your grandma's living room talking to your grandma. Whenever you come on these airwaves, imagine your grandma sitting across from you, and you will never cuss on these airwaves. That's always been I've managed to go 15 years without getting us an FCC violation. Other people on these airwaves, had a few missteps, but for me, I've been pretty good about it. But I always just imagine grandma sitting on the other side of the table with me, and I just imagine, what would happen if I cussed in front of grandma. So that's my way of staying away from that. So, but let me introduce you a little bit. Rob so you were formerly, I was thinking about how to introduce you, Rob, and I was basically thinking, but here's the thing. You were formerly with WIBC, and here's the way, as somebody who watches you for a couple hours nearly every day when I can, you basically outgrew WIBC. How's that? You outgrew it, and now you found a home where you get to do what you want.
Well, look, and I think, it's one of these things where you reach a point in any job where you've probably maxed out. You're going to get the most out of that job as you can. And WIBC is an awesome radio station. It's a heritage radio station. It's the voice of the city of Indianapolis. But I just think I was sort of capped out at the impact I was going to have there. And, sometimes, as you know, in this business, you get voluntold that it's time to go somewhere else. And so we started this podcast about 12 weeks ago. And it is awesome. For 3 hours a day, 9 to noon Eastern time, we talk about mostly Indiana news and politics and government. And the great thing about it now is there's no commercial break. You got to hit it 10 minutes, right? Like, we love our sponsors, but they let us hit their advertisement when we want to. So we can spend 20 or 30 minutes on a topic. And so it's a dream for me to be able to do that every single day.
Yeah, and you do a fantastic job at it. You started off with 2 hours. You grew into 3 hours. The only thing that you're missing, one of my favorite parts of doing live radio is taking those calls. So if you guys, at some point, I'll have your producer call me. I'll teach you guys how to take this phone system that I use. It's pretty easy to use. I think for me, that's always the fun part, is being able to take calls, because you never know. I always tell people, like even this morning, I said, guys, I got a couple news stories, but then it's pretty much you guys drive the show. You call in and we've had our latest scandal here in the region. I don't know if you saw that. We had a police chief here in New Chicago, Indiana, allegedly decided it would be a good idea to take a weapon out of the evidence locker and sell it at a pawn shop. As it turns out, weapons have serial numbers on them and they trace back to him. So they raided his house. He allegedly had a house full of steroids and guns and all sorts of things. And he's also the son of the Democratic nominee for our new sheriff. So business as usual.
I don't know about you,
Lake County.
Well, I don't know about you, but I would never break the law because I'm a horrible sneak. It's not that I wouldn't want to break the law. It's that I know I would never get away with it. And so that's why I've always never broken the law, because I'm really bad at being sneaky, and I know I'd get caught.
Well, and again, something so obvious as to pawn something with a serial number on it that we know of everything that's regulated and tracked in this country, a handgun with a serial number on it that you checked into evidence. You go to the pawn shop, and we know they're going to check it. Like, at what point do you go, hey, this probably is not going to work out? And again, it's a Taurus, so you probably got $90 for it. So,
well, here's the thing though, Chuck. Here's the deal. And you know this, right? That may be stupid, but is it as stupid as hiring a non-citizen to be your deputy chief of staff, who now it appears may have also been an illegal immigrant?
So the reason I brought Rob on today, because again, I said before the break, Rob, I said people wouldn't believe this stuff. And here's one of the things, and I take responsibility for this. I was thinking about this after I messaged you the other day. I said, you on your show, you mentioned people like Rod Bray pretty regularly. I don't think I've ever really talked about him. I've talked about Diego a little bit, but one of the things is we are so far removed and we have so many of our own problems here in the region that we don't spend enough time talking about what's going on in Indianapolis. So some of these people's minds are about to be blown by this next half hour because they've heard nothing about this. But that's why people like yourself and Akeem and just people from Indianapolis, I try to get you guys on when I can, just because stuff like this is just so unbelievable, that I need somebody that's been in the trenches down there to tell them about it. But okay, so before I set you up for this a little bit, I don't know if you know, but I'm going to digress for a second. My professional career, I am a broadcast engineer and I'm a consultant. So a lot of my career revolves around somebody being sold a bad bill of goods. And then I come in on the back end, they come to me and say, hey, we bought this thing. We built this studio. It's not working. We made a bad decision. We need you to help us fix it. Or they come to me and I say, here's the solution. Here's what you should do. They choose something different because somebody's brother-in-law found a cheaper solution. And then they call me and go, hey, it's not working. So basically what I do for a living is people make bad decisions and they come back to me and go, help us fix it. You've basically made a radio career.
Chuck,
go ahead.
Chuck,
go ahead.
That's basically known as every AM radio station owner ever. I've made a bad decision. Please help me.
But I said, you made a career out of warning people, hey, you probably shouldn't elect this guy. Then they do. And then a year or two later, they have buyer's remorse. And then you have to just sit there and not gloat and say, Rob Kendall was right again. Right. I mean, again, it sort of just becomes one of these things where it's like, yeah, we know I was right. Now let's talk about how to fix it. So, Diego's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, so your Secretary of State, he was elected by the Republican delegates at convention, Diego Morales, in 2022, as a rejection of Holcomb, as a rejection of the COVID policy. Holly Sullivan was the incumbent. She had been appointed by Holcomb when Connie Lawson retired. And the delegates in 2022 basically did their version of extending a giant middle finger to the governor. This was one of the things that they could do. And some of us who knew Diego for a long time, Diego Morales had been around forever. Paperwork showed he'd been fired when Todd Rokita was Secretary of State working in the office. He was about to get fired by Charlie White when he was Secretary of State before he quit. He worked for Pence, and there was all sorts of questions about his work history there. Those of us who knew Diego were like, hey, it's great to hate Holcomb. We're all on board with it, right?
Right.
But this is not the guy you want to make that stand with. David Shelton, the Knox County clerk, was also running. We said, look, if you want to have the protest vote, we're here for it. But this is the guy you want to do it with. And from the moment they put Diego in that office, it has been one scandal after another.
But it makes for good radio, which is the important thing for us. But it becomes one. And again, even Going back to, for me as a libertarian, I knew Jeff Maurer very well. I was like, come on, guys, like this guy is straight as an arrow. He would be the most boring Secretary of State ever. But, again, that's not how it works in Indiana. But so, I mean, let's run through, just because, again, a lot of people up here may not know. I mean, you talk about the trip to India, all these, run through sort of just do a quick recap of some of the Diego Morales scandals in his time in office.
Yeah, it's like a Beatles documentary, man. Like, there's no way you could do it in 30 minutes. Remember, the PBS one was like 9 days of the Beatles.
Right.
That's what you need.
This is not a Ken Burns
saga.
documentary of Diego. So you got like 10 minutes before you take a break.
Well, so the biggest, the one that stands out to me is, he takes this 10-day trip to India during the legislative session last year. He disappears. No one knows where he's at. He blows off his budget hearing, which that is the most important thing you do as a statewide office holder, because it secures the funding for the priorities of the office. He totally disappears. No one knows where he's at. Finally, the Indians end up outing him. These people in India start posting these photos that Diego's there. And everybody's going, wait a second, why would our Secretary of State be in India? There's nothing this guy does that would mean he would need to be in India at any time, much less during the legislative session. And he comes out with this bizarre statement saying, I was on an economic development mission. And then that raises more questions, because everybody says you have literally zero economic development responsibilities to the state of Indiana. So then he comes out and goes, well, nobody should be worried about this because no taxpayer dollars were used for the trip, which then begs the question, who paid for your trip to India? I don't know if you know, Chuck, it's pretty expensive to fly across the world and stay in hotels.
As it turns out. Right.
So then he goes, well, I'm not going to tell you who paid for the trip. Now, keep in mind, his office has already said he was on official business duty, right? So there's no this was my personal time. There's no hey, this was a vacation. He's already said I was acting in my official capacity. So they said, well, what do you mean you're not going to tell us who paid for the trip? He goes, well, I don't want this person getting protested like Elon Musk. So everybody starts digging into this. He still won't come off who paid for the trip. He still won't say who paid. Then it gets discovered that he's got a guy by the name of Raju Shanthala. Raju Shanthala is from Hamilton County, which is an Indianapolis suburb. It's Carmel. It's the Fishers area. Raju is a power player in a lot of economic development deals. He's a local business guy, Indian. And Raju, we find this Facebook post where Raju is on Facebook bragging about being in India with Diego, selling access to visas in the city in which we know Diego met with the mayor of. So you've got a guy who we figure out has this mysterious $80,000 contract with Diego's office, Raju. He's in India with Diego. Nobody knows what Raju does for the money, but we do know that he was in India with Diego in the city. Diego's meeting with the mayor, bragging about selling visa access on Facebook. So to recap, you have the Indiana Secretary of State with no economic development responsibility, claiming he went on an economic development mission to India. He won't tell you who paid for the trip, but what we do know is his buddy, who has this massive, mysterious contract with his office, $80,000 at the time, is in India bragging about selling visa access. Is that clear so far? Because that's just the beginning of the story.
That's just the beginning. It's a good introduction to where we are today. That's perfect. Go ahead.
So now there's all this pressure on him, right? Okay, who paid for this trip? Nobody just pays for you to go to a foreign country. What did you do there? The only thing we know is that you were in this country. Nobody knows what you did other than the pictures from the Indians and these events that you went to. So finally, he comes back and he goes, well, I paid for the trip. And everybody said, what do you mean you paid for the trip? He goes, I paid the money back to the guy who paid for the trip. Okay, well, who did you pay back? Well, I'm not going to tell you. Okay, can we see some proof that you wrote a check and that there were receipts? Nope, not going to do that either. So that is the current status quo story of the Indiana Secretary of State. He disappeared to a foreign country with a guy who was on Facebook bragging about selling visa access. We have no idea who paid for the trip, and he refuses to show any sort of proof whatsoever that he paid the money back.
So, my theme today has been sort of accountability. So in your mind, what would have been, I mean, again, we use this idea when we talk about, political corruption or anybody for that matter, this idea that you get away with things and there's no accountability. So you just keep pushing the envelope, and we're going to get there a little bit with Diego. But again, like what would have been an appropriate response? Should there have been some sort of an official investigation where they said, look, we just want to know, again, basic stuff. We just want to know who paid for it. You're saying you're on official business. Show us the receipts. I mean, what would have been a good way to deal with that?
Well, absolutely. And this is the theme of Diego, and this is why, and I'm sure we'll get to, the party turning against him now, why it's a complete joke. I took this to every statewide office holder. I filmed myself. I printed out a one-page sheet. I walked over to the State House, which was right down the street from our old studios at WIBC, and I filmed myself walking into every statewide office holder. Todd Rokita, the Attorney General, Micah Beckwith, the Lieutenant Governor, Mike Braun, the Governor, Elise Fischala, the Comptroller, Daniel Elliott, the treasurer, all of these people, and Diego's office as well. And I said, please answer these questions for me, or get answers to these questions for me. This is a serious issue. You have a guy in the Secretary of State who has personal information of millions of Hoosiers, business personal information on tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of businesses. He has all of our personal information. He's in a foreign country where we have no idea what he was doing or who he was doing it with. Please, for the love of God, somebody get this information on what this guy was doing and who he was doing it with. And none of them did anything about it. None of them did anything about it. These guys had the bully pulpit. They could have forced it out. They did absolutely nothing about it. The correct approach, first of all, would be there's no reason to ever blow off your budget hearing. None. He should have never been in that country. He has no economic development responsibilities whatsoever. So that's a complete joke that he was over there doing that. And it's really emasculating to the governor, because the governor is in charge of economic development. He's got his Secretary of State apparently on a rogue economic development mission, and he does absolutely nothing about it. Now, here's why. Here's why these guys would not touch Diego, because of the money. You look at the money that has flowed into Diego. He has over $1 million right now in his campaign account, and a whole bunch of that money that touches Diego is also donated to these other politicians. And my theory is they didn't want to do anything about it, whether it's Todd Rokita, the Attorney General, or any of these other people, because the money that touches Diego also touches them, and any implication of Diego could also potentially, by association, if nothing else, implicate them.
So we've had these discussions here in the region, this idea that it's very difficult. I mean, obviously we talked a little bit, we had this scandal. The last scandal was about a guy that was basically running this underground Greek mob out of a restaurant, and there was questions about who he was giving money to. Just, typical region stuff. You've got a restaurant, you've got backroom gambling, but you can see that this guy gave a lot of money to a lot of local Democrats, and you can, and that's sort of the thing is it's hard to find that information out locally. You can go on, Open Secrets and whatever, find out who he was giving money to federally, but it's very difficult to find that locally. But again, same idea is if this stuff was more accessible, we'd be able to pull this stuff up and go, hey, look, guys, this is really interesting who he's giving money to and where that money is going and who's giving money to who. It creates this really interesting picture. And it's always been baffling to me as to why it's so hard to get that picture. I mean, I know why, but I'm saying if the average person was able to see this stuff on paper and say, wow, look, this guy who's under indictment for running, this giant, criminal enterprise gave all this money to all these local politicians, it would be really eye-opening. But for some reason, it's hard to do. But
let me give you another example of what I'm talking about, Chuck, because so after the India stuff pops up, Diego surfaces at the NBA Finals with Micah Beckwith.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for those of you in the region who don't know, that is the most sought. That was the Pacers in the NBA Finals is the most sought after ticket in the history of this city. I mean, you are talking to go to these games last year, the 3 NBA Finals games, $1,000 or more for any sort of decent seat to go to the NBA Finals. I mean, it was the ticket that everybody wanted in the city, right? And Diego ends up at the NBA Finals with Micah Beckwith, the Lieutenant Governor. And we're trying to figure out, because there's a photo posted of them together, and we're trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here? How did these guys get these tickets to these? Because one of the things that maybe your audience doesn't know is when you accept a gift as a politician, there's two ways you can claim it. Either you can claim it if it was campaign related as a campaign donation, which would have to show up as a donation on your campaign finance report, or as an office holder, you can also accept gifts, which these politicians do all the time, which is a complete disgrace that they allow them to accept these gifts. And you would have to claim that on a yearly report on gifts that you've accepted as a politician. The problem is you don't know that for months or even, almost a year potentially based on how you're going to claim that gift was given.
Right.
So Diego and Micah show up to this NBA Finals game together. And it's like, this is, by the way, after Micah Beckwith had claimed on our show, as it, I've got these concerns about Diego. I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I'm going to look into it. Then, of course, he shows up at this game palling around with him. Well, finally, Diego posts all these photos of himself at the game, and we see who he's with in this photo. And we come to find out Diego and Micah went to the NBA Finals with a high-profile known felon whose my case file, for those who don't know, you can look up anybody's criminal history. It's mycase.in.gov if you want to in the state of Indiana. Any person, and it's civil cases too, anything that involves the Indiana court system, you can find it at mycase.in.gov. You start looking into who this guy is, and his my case file, it looks like a CVS receipt, Chuck. I mean, this guy in the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, it's just one thing after another. The biggest thing, though, was this guy went down on federal bribery charges in 2010. Federal bribery charges, and he shows up with Diego and Micah at the NBA Finals. And you're going, wait, we just had the India thing, and now you're palling around with this guy who went to federal prison for bribery of public officials, and now you've got Diego and Micah, the number 2 and 3 guys in the state of Indiana, palling around with this guy. It's just one thing after another.
So let's do this real quick, Rob, before we get to the big one, the newest scandal. I want to do this. We do have to take a break, but we've got Rob Kendall on the phone, robkendallshow.com, Rob Kendall Show on YouTube, 8 to 11 Central Time. It's definitely a great way to start your morning if you are out of the loop on Indianapolis politics, because there's so much going on that we don't have time to talk about here in the region. So you'll listen here in the morning, talk about our scandals. Tune in to Rob right after us and listen to what's going on in Indianapolis. So, Rob, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back, and I want to talk about this newest scandal. We'll be back with more after this.
Planting a tree, installing a fence, whether your project is big or small, NIPSCO reminds you to know what's below and contact 811 at least 2 full business days before doing any digging so that utility companies can mark the location of their underground lines. Contacting 811 is free and it's the law. Avoid possible penalties, costly repairs, or injuries. DIY or a pro, safety is in your hands. Every dig, every time.
If you're thinking of finishing your basement, installing outdoor security cameras, or your business has plans to break ground on a new project in 2024, Powering Indiana, Lake County is your source for the region's best electricians. With IBEW, Local 697 electricians, you're choosing the highest level of safety and reliability. Visit poweringindiana.org today and ensure your project is in the hands of skilled professionals.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad.
Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Labor's District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
822 in the region. Chuck pulling with you on this Monday, Memorial Day. Let's take a quick look at traffic and weather. There's no traffic. Weather's beautiful. Let's get back to Rob Kendall. Rob Kendall's on the phone, robkendallshow.com. See, that's how you do AM radio. No traffic, no weather. Let's get back to the show. And instead of spending 10 minutes doing all that stuff, we're good. So robkendallshow.com, Rob Kendall Show on YouTube, 3 hours every day from 8 to 11 here Central Time. Fantastic show if you haven't checked it out. Rob, let's get to the latest Diego controversy. I'll let you set that one up. Let's start there. So what's been going on this last week with Diego?
So first of all, the background on this is the delegates to the state convention. So the Secretary of State is nominated at the Republican State Convention every 4 years. It's in June. It's coming up in a couple weeks in June in Fort Wayne. The delegates, there's a huge portion of delegates that are freaking out about Diego being their nominee again. Because you have Bo Bai, the Democrat who's going to run. He's going to have $10 million. He's got the Bai family name. He's definitely the best Democrat since O'Bannon sought statewide office as governor for a second time to run for public office. There's a real chance this guy's going to win. You've got Greg Ballard, the former Indianapolis mayor, who very likely is going to be on the ballot as an independent. He's in the process of gathering 37,000 signatures necessary. He's going to pull a huge amount of votes, especially in central Indiana, from Diego, from Republicans who don't like Diego. And so the Republicans, these delegates, start freaking out. They're like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? David Shelton is running again. He's the Knox County clerk. He's very competent. He's also very boring, and the delegates are worried that he doesn't have the firepower to defeat Diego at convention. So they start searching for this new guy or girl, right, to replace Diego. At the same time, there's a story that starts to surface behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, I'm talking, getting pushed to reporters about this woman by the name of Elena Cupsey. And Elena Cupsey is this woman who was, well, we come to find out, was not a U.S. citizen who had risen to the level of deputy chief of staff for the Secretary of State under Diego. Her work history consisted of working for the Pacers and the Indiana Fever and the Miami Dolphins, amongst a couple other things. But there was nothing that would you would say, oh, my gosh, this person is so qualified to be the